Welcome everybody to today's stream. Hello. Hope you're all doing amazing on this Saturday. And let's have some fun together in the stream. Hopefully also some interesting topics to talk about. And I also have some special things planned for later in the stream as well. I have some small challenge set for myself. So a lot to cover today. Welcome. So let's go in game and see what we can do today. So how are you all doing? How is the weekend so far? Okay, so we do some strike missions, by the way. Just if you want to join, there's still space in the squad. We are on as usual and playing some End of Dragon strike missions now. But we will do later some more with community as well, where I will be the commander, so don't worry. But yeah, either way, I think it's like a hot topic right now is like how popular certain classes are. So this will be like the theme of the stream. We talk about what I think are issues with certain classes, and most importantly, what you think certain classes need to become more popular again. Because you can clearly see, not only in tryhard play, but also for casual players, that certain classes have more appeal and certain classes have way less appeal than others. And the question is that by design, or can you fix that with balancing? Can you fix that with like certain improvements to the class? Yeah. So that's the theme of the whole stream. So can we talk about this? Can we find some solutions? Can we have some interesting ideas that maybe we can like get some ideas to the developers as well? Who knows? I wonder if Condition Paragon Warrior will naturally become even better with the upcoming nerfs. Isn't it handily getting buffed or not nerfed? Yes. So I think this is the whole theme of the next patch. If you don't get nerfed heavily, in the end you end up in a better spot in the meta. And Condition Paragon or Paragon in general will become, so to say, will go higher in place. So yes, you're completely right there. I wouldn't say that Condition Paragon is like, I think it gets a little bit of a nerf. It's not like it gets completely untouched, but it's really minuscule. Yeah. So I think if you are like enjoying Condition Paragon, you will probably be better off after the patch than you are right now, and it's already a really good spec. So yeah, you're definitely right there. Let's take some CC here. I guess we don't need that much stability. Do we need stability here? I guess we don't at all. But yeah, I think this is something that you always have to keep in mind, that this patch that will come out on Tuesday will definitely affect the meta for tryhard people. For casual people, I think if you're playing like open world, if you're like enjoying meta events and stuff like that, don't like get scared too much. You know, I made videos about it and talked about it. Yeah, it will affect your DPS output, but it's probably not noticeable in a lot of cases, even if you get nerfed with your main build. So don't stress too much. And I think if you're playing, for example, Condition Paragon, you will not be like sad at all about this patch. Welcome, Buddha. Welcome. How are you doing today? Can you check the statistics regarding which classes played most? Yes, I will actually do that. The problem is, this isn't Guild Wars 2 efficiency statistic. I can show you that one. And it's really nice. It tells you how many people that are having an account on a Guild Wars 2 efficiency website, playing or have a certain character of a certain class, or on top of that, have played these amounts of hours. The problem is, this is obviously not the whole community. So it's like you get only a snapshot. Is it like 50%? Is it like lower, higher? I don't know. How many people of the community actually have an account Guild Wars 2 efficiency? Hard to say, really hard to say. So I think for me personally, I think I will do like talk about it. I will show it on stream after we are done with this run here. But I cannot really like tell any crazy conclusions out of this one, because it's not guaranteed that this is exactly how it is. You know, maybe there are like, I don't know, 80% of the players are not on Guild Wars 2 efficiency. So what, do we draw any conclusions out of that? Or do we just say, no, that's just too little amount of players on there? I don't know. It's sad that we don't have like any like insane amount of information from ArenaNet. That would be really cool to see. Okay, in the current amount of players, we have those amount of players that actually play, I don't know, for example, like Engineer a lot, or those amount of players that play I don't know, like Warrior or specifically like Bladezone a lot. That would be very interesting to see. But sadly, we don't have that. So we have to live with what we have. Yeah. But we will talk about it nonetheless, because I think the Guild Wars 2 efficiency statistics is already something that is pretty interesting to talk about. Because like I said, a lot of the tryhard people or players that are a bit more committed to the game, doesn't even mean they need to be tryhard, just people that are somewhat out of the game as well to actually optimize their gear or optimize their just general like account, they will probably be on efficiency. I feel like if a player has an account on Guild Wars 2 efficiency, they're already pretty dedicated to the game. Exactly, it's definitely skewed, but I think it's like you don't have to be as dedicated as, like, for example, having full legendary gear or something. Like having a Guild Wars 2 efficiency account is something that is like helpful for all types of players. So I think it's pretty much like if you have some interest to optimize anything in the game, you probably invest a bit of time in researching, and Guild Wars 2 efficiency is just one of the best websites like in the entirety of Guild Wars 2. So I think it's quite likely that a lot of players have that. But you're right, I think it's definitely heavily skewed. Still interesting to see though, yeah, exactly. But yeah, we will talk about it. We will just wait a bit until more people are on stream so that we can actually have some debate. But I released a video yesterday about Warrior, and specifically talking about Warrior, that Warrior is in a state where I would say yes, I think it's okay. But a lot of Warrior mains are unhappy with the situation, and I wanted to make a video about it. And it was actually a lot of people like responded to it. So I want to talk about all the classes that people are unhappy, because it seems like Warrior is not the only one. A lot of people said, oh, what's about Elementalist? What's about like Engineer? What's about Revenant? Thief? You know, there are so many classes that people say, oh, that could be better. Then I think we should talk about it, how to improve those classes, you know, to make some brainstorming going on, hopefully get some cool ideas, and maybe help out ArenaNet there, and maybe they listen to us. Who knows, you know, maybe I'm coping too much, but I'm trying my best. How is Heal Herald or Renegade or whatever is the best support for Revenant right now? Or would you be better off just running quick DPS Herald rather than support as far as it affects? So you can play like Herald as a healer. I think that is like a very low intensity healer, but in terms of like output and like flexibility, I think it's just better running like Quickness Herald and going for a different kind of healer. I think like I made a whole video about this topic like a couple of months ago, and I think that still hasn't been resolved. I think Revenant as a whole is a fun class, but it's a little bit like inflexible, and that really limits healers like extremely hard. And I think that is something that ArenaNet has to look into and maybe find a way to fix it. I don't know how, but I think that is specifically for Heal Herald, Heal Renegade. They have big drawbacks. I think the best healer is actually Heal Conduit right now. I think they need to like take a look at the legends and how you can actually provide like stability while healing, while providing projectile destruction and stuff like that. That's something that they need to take a look at, but it's okay. So short answer here, Heal Herald is okay, Heal Renegade is okay. It's not like the best healer, far from it, but it's definitely playable. I have all classes and as characters, and I really struggle to play 2 elite specs at all. Luminary and Warrior, any Warrior class. Warrior seems too weak. I think the problem is Warrior is in PvE, it's, I would say, okay. It is like, it has some really tryhard builds, but it's not like as commonly played, especially for some kind of like medium level players, so players that are like me or a bit lower in terms of skill level, because Warrior is just not as, how can I say, accessible in high-end content, and in easy content I guess it's okay, but in competitive modes it's even worse. So yeah, I'm with you there. I think Warrior is not as easy to get into. In fact, all the heavy armor classes need some love. I don't know, I think Guardian is actually the only heavy armor class that is like completely fine. I think like Guardian is probably the class where I would say you don't need to do anything. It's probably pretty okay. They all have their strength, all their elite specs, they're pretty solid, and like don't have any real reason to say, okay, we need to stick with like improving, for example, like Firebrand or something. I think it's already good. The main complaints I hear in my guild is Warrior being boring and Guardian being too strong. Exactly. I think like Warrior is not flexible at all. Guardian is flexible, but is also really strong in terms of DPS and stuff like that. So I think that is definitely something that needs to be addressed. Not necessarily nerfing Guardian, but bringing other, especially heavy like armor classes a bit more in line with what Guardian can provide, that Revenant, Warrior are also getting some of the flexibility love that Guardian has. I think it's unrealistic to say they will ever reach this point because the core skills of Guardian are just already so flexible. But if you talk about like Guardian compared to Revenant, the flexibility is so much different that you would just say, okay, a little bit more would already help Revenant, you know? So we will see. Welcome on Holy Leah. Welcome, welcome. Catching you live for the first time. How are you doing? I'm doing good, very good. Nice that you caught me, and hopefully you also enjoy it. And you're hopefully also doing well. That's the whole idea. But yeah, that's just how it's going. And I mean, what can I say? I think personally, it's like I don't want to be in the shoes of the developers, especially the balance dev, because like whatever you do, there's always someone, or I wouldn't even say just someone, just a small part of the community that complains about what you're doing. So if you, like for example, buff Warrior, then some people that hate Warrior say Warrior was already really good, why do you not buff X class? So it's always like you cannot please everybody. I'm aware of this, but it doesn't mean that you can, as a content creator, especially as someone that actually plays all the classes a lot, talk about what I think could be improved with certain classes to make them more playable. And that's why I started with Warrior, because that's a class that I would say is pretty easy to point out what are the real problems. Like for example, Bladestorm, Spellbreaker, a bit like not as commonly played. At the same time, you have very little amount of like flexibility or class identity that is actually used nowadays. So that's the real pain points that you can like mention here. But for other classes, like probably like Engineer, probably like Thief, it's a bit harder to point out what are the actual pain points for most players. So that's why I wanted to make the stream here and talk about it, because maybe you have some ideas, maybe you have some pain points to share, and I'm really like happy to listen and like get some information there from the community. I'm doing great. Weekend and Guild Wars. What more could I ask? Exactly. I mean, that's always my idea of a nice weekend as well. Exactly. Do you think we get more weapons for Elite Flex in the future? No. I think the short answer here is no. I think there are two arguments here. First of all, I think it's already clearly visible that they struggle a bit with like balancing, and I don't think making more weapons is easier for them to balance. So that's the first argument here. And the second argument that I have is that what kind of like spaces would they fill? A lot of Elite specs already, or classes already, have like insane amounts of, like for example, power weapons. Look at Ranger, look at Warrior. They have insane amount of different power weapons, and they're just competing with each other. They're not filling a different niche, they're filling the same niche. So I think it's very unlikely that we will ever get more weapons added to the game, because they will just compete with each other without adding any real like design space. Yes, there are some arguments for Elementalist, Engineer. They have not as many weapons, they could get that, but what is with the other classes? So that's my point here, but who knows? ArenaNet is always like, sometimes they surprise us, and maybe that will happen there as well. Who knows? Hey Syrma, love your content, always providing valuable insight on the builds and playstyle, especially for new players like me. Nice, glad to hear that. More to come, more to come. Hope you're enjoying the stuff that we are doing here on stream as well. Welcome, Coding Venom. Welcome. I was wondering, is it common for new players to have trouble maining a single class? Yeah, I think that's the most common question here on stream from new players is, what class should I choose? I cannot decide. That's the most common question. Just the short answer is try all of them if you can, or just find the one that looks the best and play them. And if you don't like it anymore, go for a different one. It's really like, Guild Wars 2 is like very old friendly. So not as old friendly as Final Fantasy, of course, in terms of like classes and jobs, but it's definitely really nice if you want to just play a different class. It's easy to get to. So just start with the one that looks the best and go from there. I want to ask you now why some gap close skills like Spear 2 on Engineer or Great Sword 5 on Warrior sometimes just pass through the enemy targeting. Yeah, it's really weird. There are some like skills that are like that. Some skills are never like that. The worst offender of that whole thing is Reaper Shroud 2. It's like the worst targeting in the entire history of Guild Wars 2. It's so bad. I don't know why certain skills have that and other skills that behave functionally similar don't have that, but it's just how it is. You have to accept it. You have to learn to play around it, especially if you play competitive modes. But that's just how it goes. I really think they should fix stuff like that with the targeting issues. They tried to do that with the Warrior Greatsword 5 at some point, but in my opinion, it's still not like completely solved. So definitely needs more improvement. Definitely needs more improvement. Yeah. Longbow Elementalist will be my cope forever. Yeah, I think a lot of Elementalist players wanted that. I think like Spear is not Longbow, sure, but I think it's something that is like from the gameplay mechanics pretty similar. So I'm not sure if ArenaNet will ever listen to you, but who knows? Elementalist is one of them that actually could have something that feels like there could be a new weapon coming. But for example, like what weapon would you give a warrior? Like there are not that many left anymore. And what space would, for example, a new ranger weapon fill? It's the same thing. I don't know. It's pretty challenging to find all the sweet spots there. And even if the community asks for it, you still have to make decisions that actually are suited for the whole game and not just the Elementalist mains, you know? So we will have to see. Welcome, Hype. Welcome, welcome. I really love the feel of Hammer after April patch. What elite spec do you think will be the best for solo open world hard content? I might do a completely new playlist or like a tier list about it if there are some crazy changes, but I would say especially for open world content, I think you will not notice like insane amount of differences. Okay, we have a DC, I guess, but we will have to say that we have to wait, because the thing is, there might be some changes, there might be some additional changes, some like so to say negative changes, so they take something away from the things that they say, okay, this will, like for example, not happen at all anymore. We will have to see what is, so to say, what they are going for. But I personally would say, like, you can't go wrong with Necromancer in open world. Necromancer is really good, Ranger is really good. Those two are probably the best for open world in general with all the elite specs. But we will have to see. Like I said, I will do an updated tier list if there are some big changes. Is Revenant hard to learn? I think Revenant it depends on the player. You know, Revenant is a class that is not known for its flexibility, but it has the energy mechanic. So the thing is, you don't have to switch around a lot of skills, which makes it easier to get into. But you have to understand the energy mechanic, which is something that is a bit more than the usual. You have a cooldown and you press it off cooldown attack. So I would say for most players, Revenant is probably easier to get into, but some players really hate the energy mechanic. So for those players, it's probably harder to get into. I don't know, depends, try it. And I think like you should never judge a class by how hard it is. You should judge a class by how fun it is. And I think Revenant is really fun. Welcome, Kubik, welcome, welcome. Yes, I'm doing very well. Hope you're doing very well as well. What about challenge mode raids? So I would say challenge mode raids is like, they will be affected. They will probably be the part that is the most affected by the balance patch, because this is where the players actually care about DPS numbers, like really like crazy. And that's what is affected, and that will definitely change. DPS like tier list will have to be adjusted for sure. Welcome, Andrew, welcome, welcome. Balance updates are getting worse and worse. There should be more trade-off to make it worthwhile, like mechanics or play variation. I'm with you there. I think that should be taken into account, but this balance patch is not really about balancing the meta, it's more about shifting the meta down. That's what the developers want and that's what they said, so we'll have to see. Yeah. Is Revenant this case Conduit that hard? No, I think Conduit is probably one of the easiest Revenant specs to learn, but I would say you have to also enjoy it. I think Conduit is not a class that I would recommend to everybody just because it's somewhat easy to play. I think Conduit is a class that can be pretty like, I don't want to use the word, but I think it fits a bit. It's a bit boring. It's not as exciting as, for example, I don't know, other, like I think for example, Herald is a bit more exciting with the legend from it, but I think like Revenant is a class that either you like it or you don't like it. I think the elite specs are all pretty similar. So I think Conduit is not hard to learn. At least some of the builds, like Power Conduit, for example, or like even Condi Conduit, they are not that hard. Not that hard to learn, I would say. Is Thief a good class and more special, especially Deadeye or Daredevil for instance content? That's one of the things that I want to talk about today. I think Thief is a really unpopular class, not because it's bad, just because it's very, so to say, it fills always pretty much the same niche. Thief is like, you have one thief that is not DPS. All thieves, like Daredevil, Deadeye, they're always DPS. You cannot fill anything else with them. DPS is like the best spot for them. Is that a bad thing? No, it fills the spot quite well. But it's not for everybody. If you want to play like support, if you want to be a bit more flexible, then Thief is not the best class for that. The only exception to that is Spectre. But Spectre feels also pretty different. So if you're a Thief enjoyer, you might not enjoy Spectre at all. So that's a really like hard dilemma there. So I would say Thief is good. Thief is really good. It's just underrated and it's mostly a DPS spec. So you have to decide if that's suited for you or not. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That bug is very dangerous if you play a lot of like competitive modes, or even like in PvE. That can be very annoying. That is true. That is true. I was put off by Elementalist due to the 4 attunements, so it was the last class I maxed out, and it turns out it became my most favorite class. Yeah, I think it's like you should really give all the classes a try. I know that's for a new player that seems like scary because you have not all the character slots, you don't have all the time. But over the course of time, if you enjoy playing the game, I would really recommend you to play all the classes, because this gives you something that you will not know ahead of time if you actually enjoy the playstyle of a class. Yes, sure, you see streamers and stuff, how they look maybe, or in-game, see an Elementalist, yeah, they have some Fire Elemental or something like that, but you cannot get the feeling of the class without playing it yourself. And sometimes that completely changes your opinion on the class. So yeah, you're a really good example. I think a lot of people are like, oh, Elementalist, that seems to be hard or not my class, and then you try it and it's actually really fun. So definitely a good like argument for trying all the classes. Is there a good raid build for Thief after the patch 66 Antiquary? Yeah, I would say the probably like Dagger condition Daredevil is one of the really underrated ones. It's still really good after the patch. But we will have to see. I will make a video or multiple videos about the meta after the patch, so don't worry. I will get you something. Just came back to Guild Wars 2 because I finally figured out I'm able to stick to one class, the Guardian. What's your recommended Hammer Guardian build for open world with solo content? I actually wanted to make some kind of shout Hammer Guardian with like Glacial Heart being extremely unkillable and playing like a really aggressive Berserker build or something. That is really fun. We have to see how I can like build it up. But Hammer is like in open world, like you typically just spam the auto attack for the most part and play full Berserker or something like that. That's what I would recommend. You have not the best like uptime in terms of like, how is it called? In terms of like boons, because you're just getting protection from the Guardian Hammer one, but you can also get some quickness with relics nowadays and stuff like that. So pretty solid weapon for Guardian in open world, I would say. You have a lot of CC as well. I'm new and want to PvP. What class is the most beginner friendly? I think that's really hard to judge. Some people would say like Necromancer. I would agree with this. Like Ritualist probably is one of the best classes to start out. Necromancer, Core Necromancer, they are really solid, really easy to get into. But PvP is all about skill, so it doesn't really matter which class you pick. You always want to have like skill. You know, if you don't have skill, you will lose matches more likely than you will not. And in the beginning, you don't have that much skill because you have to learn. So don't worry too much about it. Choose the class that you like. That's my biggest recommendation. But if you don't want to like do that, then probably like Necromancer is one of the easiest to start out with. Yeah, Reaper, for example, or Core Necromancer, Ritualist, there are a lot of easy ones, yeah. Also want to ask about Thief. I don't know how to engage with Thief rotations without a written out of cooldown. Do I see one weapon skill as something to spam? Yeah, typically that's how you play Thief. Except for Spear, everything else you play exactly like that. You really want to spam one skill over and over, typically in your rotation. But the best recommendation is like either watch my YouTube guides about Thief, like DPS builds. I have some on my YouTube channel or on my website. You can always find it, !website in the chat. Or, of course, you can also just go to Snowcrows, which is the go-to like written guide option if you're looking for a PvE build. And then they should have the option to like for you to get the rotation, but it's always like it's not completely written out. Oftentimes it's like repeat this loop and then you should just try to follow this, but I think it's doable. You just have to train on the golem a bit. You will get there. Don't stress too much. Is Heal Vindicator bad? I think it's pretty much like one of the worst healer builds. Yeah, it's not horrible. You can play it. Heal Alacrity Vindicator. It's also quite good in World versus World, but in PvE it's one of the most like useless healers. It's not horrible, don't get me wrong, I really want to stress that. It's not like it's unplayable, but it's definitely something that I would say like almost any other healer that you can play is better. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, if you don't have full legendary gear, of course you're right, that might be a little bit less like achievable to play all the classes, but I think even then it's okay. You don't need full exotic or a full ascended gear. Just full exotic is completely fine as well. And I think full exotic, especially if you know how to get it, is really fast. It's really, really fast. You can get that like from the trading post, especially if you just want Berserker gear or something, like for, I don't know, like 15 gold or something. So it's really not too bad to achieve. I can't seem to recognize the accent. Where are you from? I'm from Germany. I'm from Germany. I recently went super hard into Harbinger, and of all things, at first I found it super squishy and just odd to play, but now it's my main DPS and support DPS, very fun. I think Harbinger is really underrated. It's probably the least played Necromancer spec, but I think it's in my opinion the most fun. I think Harbinger is, for me, it's so mobile, it's really fast paced, it's not feeling as like squishy as it first looks. At least if you get a bit more used to it. But I think I really enjoy it. Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, the power exotic is cheap, but if you want to try Condi builds, it's expensive. That is true. That is true. But, you know, for learning a class or playing a class, it's not necessary to play all the builds at once. Thanks a lot, Cloudy. Really appreciate it, Prime. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Thanks for the support. But yeah, I personally would say, like, playing a class, playing a build is like, you should just start with the most accessible, cheap one, stuff like that, and then you can go from there. You know, you don't have to play all the builds all at once. You know, they are like positioning really, really badly. Okay, interesting. Interesting. At the moment, loving Hammer Guardian, Seal Radiance, Dragon Hunter Luminary. You mentioned Glacial Heart. Which 3 specializations did you have in mind? Core Guardian or another elite spec? I will have to try what is the best, but I think like probably like either with Core Guardian making a core build, because that's what people always ask for. Can you make a core build that I can use without having any, so to say, how's it called, expansion with elite specs? Or I thought about making a Dragon Hunter, but we will have to see what like fits the best. We have to see. We have to see. I think it's definitely something that needs to be tested and tried. And I will wait until the balance patch drops, because there might be some damage changes and stuff like that. So I don't want to like do build testing just before balance patch. That's always a bit like meh, because it might change completely, and then I'm a bit sad to have invested the time and then it changed. But it will be interesting. I will come up with something hopefully, and maybe even make a video about it if it's like worth talking about. So stay tuned. Do you think Dragon Hunter is fun? I think Dragon Hunter is, in my opinion, a fun spec, but only for me in PvE, because it's like full DPS. You can play a Bunker Dragon Hunter in competitive modes or something, but Dragon Hunter as a design spec is only DPS. And I'm always someone that likes to have flexibility, that likes to have different aspects of a spec when it needs to, but Dragon Hunter is always like, you play DPS. That's pretty much it. So I personally say I like it, but I think I have more fun on other Guardian specs, because you see it, I play it here on stream a lot. I play support mostly. Not because I'm a bad DPS player, but because you have more impact on your group with support specs. And Dragon Hunter has some impact as a DPS spec, but not as much as, for example, like a heal Firebrand or something like that. That's the whole point here. I don't even know. What do we take here? I guess we go tank and see what we can do. Yeah, Budget Gamer. I'm trying to be more live on stream as well, but I'm currently quite busy in real life, so YouTube for now is the thing where I have the most activity, daily uploads and stuff, but I will stream more often as well. I have weekly streams, but I want to do it more often than weekly. Yeah, glad you're enjoying the content, Argento. What is a bunker build? So in competitive modes, if you play bunker build, especially in PvP, it means that you just play something that is extremely tanky, so like a lot of defenses, almost no offense, and you just want to survive. And this works very well in like Conquest, where you need to hold a point. You just put down the Bunker Guardian on there and you try to survive until the end of time. This works quite well, but the problem is it's not very impactful. In my opinion, it's also quite boring. Yeah, so yeah, I would say if you're a new player, try it, because it's quite easy to learn. But in my opinion, it's also not very fun. You know, I want to have some agency on my build. I don't want to be just the rock that doesn't move, but doesn't do anything else. I don't know, it's not for me. I would love a proper condition build for Elementalist that isn't reverb based. I mean, we have, yeah, proper condition build is rare. That is true. That is somewhat rare. Yeah, I think like you can play Condition Tempest, I guess. That is a condition build that you can play. But I see where you're getting from. I definitely see that. Also, who in ArenaNet thought that staff should be a support weapon? Yeah, that is a very common criticism, and that would also be the main thing that when I talk about Elementalist as a weapon or as a class that needs to be addressed, is definitely like, why do we not have a proper long-range staff fantasy? You know, why do we not have like, you know, I think staff as a healing weapon is okay, but why not have a staff that can also be a DPS weapon? Why do you have to decide? Why not like, you know, Spear should be, or the weapon, the DPS weapon that Spear is, I think that should be staff, and Spear could be a support weapon, but I think they decided the other way around, so yeah, we will have to see. We have to see. No one died, that's already good. What's a decent gold per hour for active stuff? I mean, anything between like 10 to 50 gold is like common. I would say a decent gold per hour is like 25 plus if you're really farming for it. That's probably like, if you go really try hard, you can go up to 70 if you do it really like really try hard, but I think most players are like 20 to 30 gold. Is Scourge a support decent in PvE? Yes, in PvE it is actually a really good support, really underrated, yes. In competitive modes, more in World vs. World. In PvP, don't play Scourge. Yeah. Yeah, it's always about, like, I think you always have to find a middle ground between making a fun game and making the meta interesting and not making it too much necessary to have a meta, but at the same time also making it so that people that want to have like build crafting and stuff going, that also have the opportunity to do so. I think it's really hard for developers to do that. Yeah. If you don't want to die in open world events, what would be the most durable Guardian build idea? I guess some kind of Celestial build, something like Celestial Firebrand, Celestial Willbender, something like in that direction, because Celestial gives you defensive stats, you get offensive stats, you have some healing in there. Typically that's the best way for open world if you want to get like durable while also being able to do some damage and maybe even support. Yeah. Don't play Celestial on Dragon Hunter though, or I would say that's just not really suited. Dragon Hunter is always power favored, Celestial builds typically favor condition damage, and that's just not a good combination. Drizzlewood Coast? Ah, so you mean the best farms? I think it like the best farms right now is like really dependent on what kind of group you have. You know, some groups I think like Rift farming is decent. You can like Drizzlewood Coast is decent. I think like still the Mirrors and Visions of Eternity are decent. Stuff like that. I think one of the best farms that you can do is like Convergences farming, Convergent Challenge Mode farm. There are a lot of farms that you can do. I think it's like you have to find the one that you have the group or the party that you can do it with, because almost no farm is solo. That's always something. Guild Wars 2 is an MMO after all. But I will do, if I get the have the time for it, I will do an updated tier list about what's the best gold per hour. I have already one on my YouTube channel. You can check that one out. It's still almost up to date. But I want to include the newest methods as well, like the mirror farming, stuff like that. But in general, I think like gold farming is always like very fluctuating. It's not something that I can make a video about and it will last for years. That's just unrealistic. The problem is always you have like the markets, you know. Sometimes you have a legendary coming out, a lot of people engage with it, then some gold farm gets really valuable, then a lot of people do it, and then suddenly it goes down in price again. It's like, yeah, you have to find a sweet spot there, and that is just for a video typically it's hard. And right now you can always check out fast farming with the current prices, but they are always very optimized. So I think gold farming is something that is like not as easy to answer as with like a single sentence or something. Sorry. It was just amazing with how many builds are viable to do all the content. Yeah, I think they did a really good job in the last few years to actually balance the game, for sure. It's especially PvE, like you have so many different builds that you can play. It's pretty crazy, for sure. How hard is it to power Troubadour going to be hit? I think Power Troubadour is one of the specs that gets hit a bit in the crossfire. Sadly, it gets hit, and it doesn't really need to get hit because it's not like insanely powerful. So I would say like Troubadour, yeah, you will have some DPS loss, and that's not necessarily deserved, but it's still playable and still fun if you like it. So don't stress too much, but I think it's definitely one of the losers, a little bit of the losers of the patch, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Staff DPS on Elementalist would be awesome. Awesome. Guardian main finally had some close friends join the game. Think I should start playing a boon DPS. Unsure which one. I think Guardian is like good as a boon DPS. Like Luminary is really good as a Alacrity DPS, or Firebrand as a quick DPS. Those two are your best bets in terms of boon DPS on Guardian. Yeah, really underrated. Really good. Yeah. Dragonfall, good point. Dragonfall is a good gold farm. Forgot that one. Welcome chat, welcome to the stream. I'm doing great, having some fun here on stream and talking about unpopular classes or classes that should be improved, yeah. How can I change the thickness of the health bar? There is a setting for that. It's called here thick party health bars or thick squad health bars. That's the setting here. Quite easy to get. You just have to open the options and you will have it already. Yeah, should help you out there. How do I make a lightning staff elementalist? Yeah, I mean, that's probably like a meme build, sadly. It's not a build that I would say is like commonly played for a reason. It's just not as good, the sad truth. Yeah, I think staff is either you play it as a water support based elementalist, or if you're playing world versus world, that's the only exception where you can play staff as a DPS weapon, so you play fire based. But I don't know. It's really tough to make like the only reason why you would play like, I don't know, there is not a real reason to play staff with like air favored, because air is just like, it's a CC thing where you swap into once, but you don't really have any reason to stick with it. And that's like I said, I think staff is the biggest offender of elementalist being, so to say, not as good as it could be. I think that's the main point of criticism that I would have for elementalists, is that the weapon variety is horrible. Not the class itself, it's more about the weapons variety. Like maybe the utility skills on core elementalist need also to look at. So elementalist has some issues, I would say. Yeah. Thief needs PvE improvement for sure. I think Thief is like on top of my list. I think Thief, Revenant, those are like for me like on top of my list in terms of what they could do with improvements. Will they ever do it? I don't know. I have my hopes, but that doesn't mean it will come true. It's the sad truth there. You never know. You never know. Yeah. Which spec, in your opinion, is the best for open world in terms of solo survival and being independent, self-reliant? So this is a really good question, and I made a 30-minute video on this question just like 2 months ago, and it's still up to date. And it's about my solo builds, so you can check that one out. It's exactly that. You want to be self-reliant in a solo build, you want to deal damage, you want to have healing, boons, all of the good stuff. And yeah, I think like what is the best build? I think like Untamed is good, Catalyst is really good, Scourge is actually really good, Amalgam is really good. Those are like the absolute top tier picks. But even builds that are not top tier are so good that every single elite spec, you know, name me one elite spec, I will name you a solo build for it that is actually really good. So it's like, choose the class that you like the most and check out my channel. I have solo builds for all elite specs, so you will find one that suits you. Maybe you have not played it yet, but it will exist. So give it a try. Yeah, give it a try. Okay, so I wanted to talk about, give me a second, the class spread and what's the most popular, what's the most unpopular class. So give me a second, I will showcase it here on stream. So you should be able to see it now. Yes, very good. And exactly in the middle, that's how we like it. So I'm here on Guild Wars 2 Efficiency, and this is obviously, I want to stress that again, this is obviously something that is heavily biased towards more experienced players, because you can only see here, as far as I know at least, how much playtime is of players that are from efficiency. So have an account on efficiency. But we talked about it, what's the most popular class, what's the most unpopular class. And we talked about it on my YouTube video actually a while ago, about what's the most played class in raids. But this is even more, so to say, a smaller niche of the community. This is a bigger niche of the community but it's still not the whole, because you don't know how many players are on efficiency and how many are not. But you can clearly see that the most played profession, not only by characters but also by playtime, is Guardian. Guardian is just number one, and followed by Necromancer and Ranger. They're not even contested. They are really the top three. So will you argue now that those are the perfect classes? I would say maybe, probably not. But at least the playtime and the players would say it's not unpopular. So this is definitely something that you can see here. However, and that's the interesting part here, on the lower end in terms of playtime, I think playtime is more interesting than characters, because characters does not necessarily mean that you play them. So for example, I have 70 characters. How many of those do I play? Probably like 20. So there will be a lot of like dead characters. So I will just talk about the playtime for the most part here, because that was so somewhat reflecting how people think about the classes. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, this is definitely very interesting that Revenant, Engineer, and Thief are the least played classes. Revenant being the least played class has two reasons, I would say, and one of them is a rather unfair reason. That's the only class that came after the core game was released. So it has the least amount of time in the game where people could play it, so that's why it's lower than everything else by quite a big margin. But even if it would have released with the core game, I doubt it would be number one, because look at this, like there's always like 100 million more hours on Necromancer than on a Revenant. So I think like Revenant is already by design also a little bit of an so to say an issue child a bit. But yeah, I would say this is a topic for another time. But I think Revenant definitely, like you can see, the least played class. So this is also, now let's talk about the others here, because Revenant is like, we talked about why it's there, but let's talk about Engineer and Thief. You know, Engineer and Thief being very low, even though they, especially Engineer, is really flexible, is surprising to me. I think Engineer is a class that is one of the most flexible classes in all game modes, because of the kits, because of its design, because of its like utility skills that are, in my opinion, really strong. I think Engineer is probably there because people consider it to be a bit more like challenging to get into, and it's less the classic fantasy MMO character. Yeah. So if you compare that to an Elementalist, compare that to a Mesmer, to a Guardian, a Necromancer, those are classes that are classic fantasy vibes. An Engineer, not really. Like the only real fantasy vibe that you get from Engineer is probably with Mechanist. And I think that's like, if you look at before Mechanist released, I think Engineer was even lower in terms of like percentage. I think Engineer is like, Mechanist brought it up. So if you could like see the playtime after Mechanist released to before, I think that would be very interesting to see. So yeah, interesting that Engineer is here. I think it's probably a lot of people play Engineer nowadays with Mechanist, but apparently not enough to actually bring it higher. Yeah. I agree, Scrapper is really fun. I think Scrapper is one of the most, if not the most fun Engineer spec for me personally, but I think not everybody agrees. I think most played Engineer spec by a long shot is Mechanist, because it's just, so to say, easier than the other Engineer specs, and it's more roleplay-wise interesting. And then we have Thief. This is the class where I would expect to be like quite low. Not because Thief doesn't have a good headcanon or roleplay aspect. I think it does. It has a really like clear identity of being the assassin class. But I think because of that, it's pretty niche. It has the assassin vibes all the time. You cannot make an elite spec that actually fits to Thief without being, so to say, somewhat assassin-y vibes. The only exception where they nailed it was Spectre. Spectre is a class that still feels like a Thief, in my opinion at least, but it's more support favored. So what does that mean? Hard to say. I think in terms of playtime, I think a lot of players play Thief if they like the assassin vibes a lot. If you like them somewhat, I think most players rather play something that is more popular and more unique, because Thief is just something that is like, you have it in every MMO, I would say. Like, it doesn't really matter what kind of type of MMO. Thief, assassin, like something like that you always have. So it's not something special. And in Guild Wars 2, it's also not like very flexible. And that's something that comes on top of it. And that's why I think like those are the arguments why Thief is here, #7, I would say, number 7. Yeah, it's true. It is also, you have to really learn Thief. Thief, if with the exception of like pistol thieves, it's like you have to invest some time. It's not something that you can say, I get to learn Thief and I will be the spear thief main within an hour. That's just like, you have to invest some time to actually play the class, learn around this. But this goes for all of them actually. Engineer, Revenant is all about learning and getting the class to understand. I think Warrior, Ranger, Necromancer, they are way more straightforward, and that's why they are more in playtime. I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Exactly, like Thief has a lot of like things that other classes can do easier. The only exception to that is probably like mobility. Like actual mobility, Thief is probably still the king. You see that in roaming in World vs. World. That's why it's really like fast and really unique in that regard. But this is obviously how many people of this like playtime is in roaming, like probably barely visible. So not taken into account here. Yeah. So I personally love Spectre as well. So don't get me wrong. I think for me, the most interesting spec on Thief is Spectre because it is less thiefy than Deadeye or Daredevil, for example. But I think I'm maybe the minority, I don't know. I think a lot of players that play Thief really like to play like the Assassin vibes. And I think Spectre is less Assassin than Thief as a core design. Yeah, I think it's not for everybody. I think Thief is also, and that's probably a good point here by chat, I think Thief, Engineer, maybe to some extent even Revenant, are less flashy than a lot of the other classes. Like looking at Guardian, looking at Elementalist, looking at Mesmer, those classes are insanely flashy. So if you do an attack, it doesn't even need to be some kind of elite attack or something. Even some weapon spells look insanely like visuals, bright, like grenade exploding, flashbang, something like that. Thief, like there is barely any attack that has like a crazy animation. It's nowadays better or like more pronounced with Spectre, with Antiquary, they have more of those attacks. But looking at the core Thief skills, they are not as, so to say, you are not drawn to them if you like to have crazy visuals. That's, I would say that's not necessarily a negative thing because Warrior and Thief are designed as classes that are more to the ground. Like that is something that makes sense, but it's probably something why Thief is not as commonly played, I would say, yeah. I would agree that Revenant is probably not the reason why it's not that often played, is not the visuals. I think Revenant has a lot of visuals, but I think Revenant is also, compared to like Elementalist or Mesmer, always pretty similar, at least Elementalist pretty similar in the color scheme, and it's like this grayish color scheme often, which some people just find a little bit boring, I guess. I really like the color scheme of Revenant specifically, but I personally think Revenant is, like we mentioned it earlier, I think Revenant has flexibility issues, Revenant has a little bit of balance issues, and it's the, so to say, the youngest class, the only class that is younger than the others, and therefore it's the least played. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think for me, Spectre is also the best of Engineer. And then we get to like the parts where I'm a bit surprised that Elementalist, Mesmer, and Warrior, they are, so to say, the middle ground where people play it, but it's less played than the top classes. I think those like three classes here, they are almost exactly the same hours. That is very surprising. So that is, for me, that's where you would expect classes that are not completely crazy popular, but also not like unpopular. You see the big jump here. Like there is a huge jump between the last three and the middle three. So I think that's for a reason, because Mesmer, Elementalist, they are extremely flexible, extremely unique, they fill their class fantasy very well. You play them in all game modes, but they are not as popular as classes like Necromancer and Guardian because they have the class fantasy that is really cool, like Paladin, like some kind of necromantic summoner. I think people really love that always in all games. Plus, they are easier to get into. Plus, they are not as punishing, and in most situations, especially in competitive modes, they always have been somewhat like played. Always. Like there has never been a reason since the beginning of the game where Guardian was not a staple in World vs. World. Yes, I know not a lot of people of those percentages actually play World vs. World. I think the major part is still PvE, but even there, Guardian was always a top pick. So this is why people like, so to say, play a lot on those specs, because it's just such a like popular pick. I think that's the real reason why Guardian Necromancer are the top picks by quite a big margin, is because they are just really like they hit everything. Everything is there, like class fantasy, visuals, how good they are, how flexible they are, how unique the elite specs are. Everything is there, and people like to continue playing it. A lot of people in the chat here are probably Guardian mains, and that's for a reason. So number 1 and number 2 really clear, for sure. The interesting part that we have to talk about here are 2 things, in my opinion, in the middle part here. Looking at Elementalist and Mesmer. Mesmer and Elementalist are #5 and #6, yeah? So they are in the middle. However, if you look at the characters, Elementalist is pretty low. So Elementalist goes quite like, it's almost as low as Revenant, and Revenant is, so to say, the newest class. But you can see that a lot of the tryhard people that, so to say, have an Elementalist play it also more. So it's really fun that, so to say, you can clearly see that Elementalist is a class that, so to say, casual players don't have a character for, because it's scary, you know, 4 elements. It's not necessarily scary for a reason, but still, people don't necessarily have a character for it. But the people that do play it more. That's very clearly visible. The opposite is, interestingly enough, true for Mesmer. Mesmer has a lot of characters, but less playtime compared to where it was. Very interesting observation. I think maybe I overinterpreted, but it's very interesting observation nonetheless, I would say. Yeah. Yeah, there are so many reasons why people play Guardian, for sure. Guardian is just like, it has so many like uniqueness, plus it's also fun, and that's always a good aspect, I would say. Yeah. But to be honest, I think all classes have fun aspect very high. Yeah. Elementalist has the same problem as Thief, much more effort for the same reward and quirky mechanics. I think Elementalist is like, you have to put way more hours in to actually get the class to a level where you could be with like a Ranger, Necromancer or Guardian already without having like even half the time put in. It's just Elementalist is more complex. You have to learn more. It's not necessarily more, so to say, punishing if you get it down, if you understand it, but it's still a class that people are a bit scared of. And you can still see that to that day, even though it's, in my opinion, not really justified anymore with Evoker, with Tempest, that are a bit more easier to play than, for example, like just like crazy Catalyst or Weaver rotations. It's just my opinion. Exactly. But yeah, and then we have Ranger. Ranger is probably the class that not a lot of people talk about when it comes to unpopular classes, because Ranger is always like the class. A lot of people like Ranger, a lot of people play Ranger, like you see a lot of Untames and Gale Shots running around, you see a lot of Soul Beasts. Ranger is a class that is like popular because it's just like filling the spot of being like a pet character, being an archer character, stuff like that, very well nowadays. And it's just all around like good. You know, it's a good PvE class, it's a good PvP class, it's a good world versus world class, especially for roaming. But I think like Ranger is just like, it's not as popular as Necromancer or Guardian because it's not as like flashy, it's not as like unique in terms of like MMO space. But if you are someone that likes to have an archer or having a pet or both, then you are drawn to Ranger, and then that's the only choice that you have in Guild Wars 2 somewhat. So I think it's like, you can clearly see that Ranger is like third spot, and it will probably stay there forever because Necromancer and Guardian are quite like ahead, and then you have Warrior and the others being quite a bit lower. I think like Ranger, Warrior in terms of playtime, they are pretty like similar. It's like a down to the ground design, clear niche, and Ranger fills its better, I would say. Yeah. But yeah, I personally would say this sums it up in terms of like how popular those professions are. So I talked about it a lot on stream already, and I will talk about it this stream even more about it, but I will also, and that's the interesting part, do videos specifically where I really think about all the specs. So if you have already thoughts about it, how we could improve the popularity of some specs here, especially the lower end ones, and why they are there. So first, find the reason why a certain spec is there, and then improve its, so to say, playability by changing something, that will be covered hopefully in the future as a like really nicely concise video. But if you have any ideas, let me always know on stream. I really like to talk about it, and maybe you have some crazy ideas that I can like take into account then. So I think like it's probably like for Engineer and Thief, those will be the main targets for my first few videos, because I think they have pretty clear things where I have already something in mind where I would say, okay, this could be improved. Thief complete rework? I mean, I hope not. I hope not, but who knows? Who knows? Yeah. Delete kids from Engineer? I mean, I think that would also not help with the situation. I think you would have to make other utility skills better, but at the same time make kids also usable, because you know you don't want to delete other skills just to make some older skills and easier to use skills better. I think you have to find a middle ground there. I don't know. Give Ref the Evoker treatment, specialized stance. That would be really fun. That would be fun. What I find surprising is the human character dominance. I think we need to address that and buff the other species. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there, Bentius. I think that is very, very surprising. If you look at 40% of the characters are humans and playtime almost 45%. So yeah, you definitely see that. But I think that's like in almost every game the same. Like humans are the most boring character race that you can have, but it's the most played one because it's what we are. You know, a lot of people like to look specifically at female like characters, yeah? Or that's why there is it's not definitely not because we have 55% of the player base being like female. I think that's not it. It's more like human female is the most popular combination, especially for tryhard people. So look at this here. Human female Mesmer. 4%. What did I just play? I don't know. I'm pretty much like I'm causing this statistic to be the case. So I would say this is something, it's a different topic, and I think it doesn't impact gameplay at all. But I think I know where you're getting at, that I think it would be nicer to have a bit more spread of the other classes as well, races. But I think it's just like generic visuals. It doesn't aesthetics. It doesn't really like matter for the gameplay. That's why I'm as a gameplay oriented player cares more about the profession balance and the profession like playtime and the big discrepancy that you have. Revenant being not even half of the playtime of Guardian, that's for me way more concerning than having humans being almost like as much playtime as 2, 3, and 4 spot together. Yeah, that's just my take there. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think, to be honest, it's like class balance is something that is shifting. I think race balance is something that is like rigid and set in stone. I think like races and especially characters, I think a lot of people have their characters, and I don't think that the big majority of players that already have characters will switch and create a lot of crazy new characters. I think if you have 2, 3 elementalists, it's quite unlikely that you will create 4 and 5 of an elementalist on top of that. I think that's only crazy people do that, like me, but most people would rather have like 1, 2 maybe for each class if you play a bit more. But yeah, I think race is more rigid, whereas profession could change. But of course, we have like already like over a decade of playtime behind us. So it's quite unlikely that those numbers will ever change. Maybe in a decade they have changed, but who knows what Guild Wars 2 is in a decade. So we have to see. We have to see. I'm really sad that Guardian will get big nerfs next week, not gonna lie. I think talking about the nerfs of the upcoming week of Tuesday, this is something that will affect people's mind more than it affects the actual profession, I would say. Yes, Guardian will get heavy nerfs. Yes, you will see some heavy nerfs to Catalyst, specifically on Elementalist. You will see some Power Mesmer nerfs. Yes, absolutely. But I think this will not affect the long-term playability of those specs. Yes, in short term, like in 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, players might go and play different classes because they think, oh, this class got hit so hard, I cannot play it anymore. But I personally think that like most classes and builds will not change so much that you should not play it anymore. If you enjoy playing Dragon Hunter, you should still play Dragon Hunter after the patch. I think there is no reason to say this 10% DPS nerfs brings me to a different class. Only if you want to get the most damage, then you switch. But you should not switch because you want to like play 10% DPS, but you still like Guardian. If you still like Guardian, play Guardian. You know, that's how it is. And I think 10% is not even noticeable for most players. Yeah. I've got a question for you. What class would you recommend that has possible builds for both a bruiser and a support to switch between on non-PvE, PvP, World versus World content? So, I would say every class can do that, maybe with the exception of Thief. Like, I would probably recommend Mesmer or Necromancer or Guardian. Those are the top picks because they have flexibility. They are really good in PvE as a like support, while also having some bruiserness in there, especially like you can play some Celestial, Guardian or Necromancer, and they are really, really good with it in open world solo content, while also in a group. I would say Necromancer and Guardian probably for most people the top picks. That's why they are so high in the profession ranking here. Yeah. But yeah, I would say the nerfs are like, people are a bit too... I agree, it's crazy that they nerf so much, sure. But I think it's like, if you like a class, you should not switch from it. I think the fun is way more important than like 10% at maximum damage nerfs to your class. Yeah. I'm making between making a warrior or a revenant to see if I enjoy more than my guardian, to be honest. I mean, just give both of them a try. I personally would say if you are coming from guardian, I think revenant seems to be a bit more like interesting for you then, because warrior is just even more basic. But I personally think it's still, maybe that's exactly what you want. So give it a try. Yeah, Boon Catalyst is a little bit sad. That is definitely like, that is definitely the thing that I'm like the most sad about this patch, is Boon Catalyst specifically. But at the same time, I think like some classes like Conduit or specifically Conduit and maybe even Power Mesmer, like Power Virtuoso, they didn't get hit like almost. And that's crazy because Conduit was already like really good for like half a year now. And I'm just like a bit concerned that some of the specs they just forgot. In Catalyst and like stuff like that, they completely like smushed, like completely. I think that is weird. Yeah, exactly. Herald was also like completely forgotten that it existed in this patch. I don't know. I made a whole video about this, talking about this. I think the patch as a whole is like, the idea is good, but that you then on the same time forget like half of the specs that needed some improvements and not nerfs is for me also concerning. You know, a balance is always for me two-directional. So you balance stuff in terms of like you nerf stuff that is too good, but you also buff stuff that is too weak. And in this case, I think they just nerfed almost everything. They were like, you can count how many buffs were in this patch on a single hand. So yeah. No, Virtuoso, especially World vs. World, like is not getting touched. Like in general, PvP and World vs. World are getting like 10 changes as a whole. So don't worry too much if you play those game modes. It's mostly a PvE patch. Yeah. Yeah, there should be a follow-up patch. Hopefully they adjust already things before this patch, but who knows? You know, I think sometimes it looks like they tell us the patch notes like 4 weeks in advance, and that's it. It's like exactly the same patch notes. So I'm not sure if they will change it, but who knows? I hope so. I hope so. Any more news on the nerfs to the content? So we have no information. We will see that on Tuesday. We know for a fact that we get some nerfs to bosses and open worlds and stuff like that in terms of their health pool. We don't know exactly which ones. They have not confirmed that as far as I know, but there will be some that will be changed. Yeah. And that is already interesting because we have some really big HP spongy things that are getting addressed. And that's good because 10% DPS loss means that those bosses will take 10% longer. But I definitely would say that we have to see how much and which bosses are addressed. Yeah. So what do we have to play here? We will see. Do you think the World vs. World meta will change? I think a bit. I think they nerfed the Visions of Eternity specs quite a bit. So we'll have to see. We will have to see. Yeah. Isn't this patch just there to reverse power creep? Yes, it is, Rox. Exactly, that's the idea. But I think a balance patch, because that's like we get a balance patch every 3 like weeks, 3 months. Weeks would be nice. 3 like 3 months at like the lowest. And this is just a numbers change and not really addressing issues of classes that are underplayed, unpopular. So that's why I'm a bit like concerned about this patch, not because of this reverse power creep. Yeah. Are you playing Celestial Spectre? It's good in open world, yeah. It's really good, yeah. It's on Tuesday, exactly. The patch with the big nerfs is definitely like a exciting time on Tuesday. I will make a video as fast as I can when it's out and talk about it, yes. So stay tuned for that one, and hopefully we will receive some exciting news about it as well, and not only the things that we already know. You have to see, you have to see. Yeah. Yeah, I hope Dragon's End is also one of the things that will get adjusted. So one would be crazy. Would be really insane in terms of like if some of the like the Starlit Welt meta, for example, is really long already. I hope they adjusted even more than 10%. That will be exciting, but who knows? 1 second. Okay. What do I want? Quickness? Quickness or Alacrity? I guess I go Alacrity. I go Alacrity. So, I wish they would touch up some of the old specs with new visual effects and such. I think that would be really cool, but at the same time, I feel like, when was the last time that we got some improvement to the visual effects or something? That was a long, long time ago. Maybe I play, wait, maybe I play something else. What do we play after this? Yeah, I'm playing some Spectre. I need some Spectre gameplay here. I think it's unlikely because it's so long time ago that they actually did something like that. I don't know. I would hope that we get some updates, but I have to be honest. The time since we got this, it's like I can't even remember when we got a visual like effect change. I don't see it, sadly. My guild of hard casuals that I'm throwing in the raid mentor grinding just managed to get Sarah yesterday. Nice, congrats, very good. That's how we like to have it. Some more people getting more kills. Very good. The next update. So we are currently in, so to say, we have the, how is it called? Like we have, if you can see the biggest next update will be in 31 days. So this is something that you will like see. Oh my God, I cannot get anything here. But yeah, so in 31 days will the next big update with the new map, with the new legendaries and stuff happen. The next one after that will probably be in August. That's pretty much like it. But we have to see. Maybe they confirm some more stuff after that, but that's the only like knowledge that we have. Like it's in the middle of May when the next update will happen. Yeah. So I'm like excited for that one, especially because of the new legendaries and more new content to cover finally. But I have no clue regarding the fashion templates and what will actually happen with like, will people be happy with what they do to the fashion templates? Will there even be like updates to the fashion templates, or are they a bit like, okay, we have like still not enough time to fix it? We have to see. Like this is something that I have no information about and also not enough clue, to be honest. Yeah, I'm playing on AU right now, but as I'm a reunited partner, I can switch between AU and NA. Yeah, 2 hours, nice, of Sarah killing, very good. No, so like Domenico, that's a good question. They have not mentioned anything about an upcoming expansion or something like that. So we don't know anything what will happen after Visions of Eternity is, so to say, over, which will be in August, maybe September, something like that. So we will have to see. Yeah. Nice, very good, very good. That's how we like it, Bentis. But yeah, we will have to see. Like I hope, I would say my hope is that we get at least in the next few months an update. My guess is we get an update on the situation when the next expansion drops and stuff like that in like August. I would be surprised because they hold it so long, the information. I think it's quite likely that they will hold it until Visions of Eternity is over. I would be very surprised if they now suddenly change their mind and release like information about it in like, I don't know, May. I don't see it, but I would be happy, of course. You know, I have no more information than you. So if you are asking for like inside information, ask somewhere else. I have no clue. But that is just what I guess here. Yeah. Condi Firebrand decent? Yes, Condi Firebrand is decent. Especially for raids and fractals, it's really good. For World vs. World, I would say it's surprisingly good in small scale. I would not necessarily recommend it in a Circ. Like in 50-player Circ, I think like Condi Firebrand is like pretty much not as good. But if you're playing like specifically like in 15 versus 15 or even lower, and in raids and stuff like that, it's a good build. Yeah, really good build actually, really underrated, especially after the next patch. Yes, we know what legendaries they will be adding. So they will be adding a legendary accessory from PvE, probably from the new open world map that we will get. And they will add a new legendary accessory as well for World vs. World. So we get 2 legendary accessories, one of World vs. World and one will be coming from probably open world, not confirmed, but very, very likely. Yeah. Hardest part was getting the pre from Sarah to be reliable. Yeah, the gliding is the hardest part on Sarah. No, I'm joking, of course, yeah. It's weird. It's definitely weird that they have not talked about more information about the expansions and stuff. Yep, very weird. Yes, ArenaNet partners can switch between an EU and NA. That is true. That is one of the main perks if you want to like play with your communities on both servers. That's the idea. Yes, exactly. Are going to make some solo builds for fractals and raids. What is the definition of a solo build that is specifically for raids on fractals? Because I have like, I don't know, at this point like 50 solo builds or something on my YouTube channel. And I would say 45 of those are really good in fractals or raids as well. So you can just pick my solo builds and play them, yeah? Because they work exactly the same, maybe even better in a like fractal or a raid case. Not always, yeah, you might be right. Some of them are specifically for open world, but that's very, very like small minority. So just check out my tier list or my. Typically, you can find it on my YouTube channel. If you want to have even more, so to say, quality of life, check out my website, ! Website in the chat, or just scroll down in the description of the streams. You will find it there. I would say full Condi Firebrand is really good, but full like Condi with quickness application Firebrand is also really good. I think both of them, just what your group needs. I personally would say like in most situations, filling the quickness slot is a bit better because you bring the utility and DPS. It's awesome, but you can also go for full like DPS. Both of them is fine. Like Condi Firebrand is really like, it's not the easiest to get into, but if you manage it, it's awesome. It's extremely strong, extremely flexible. It's just an all-round pick that is like probably one of the best all-round picks that you can have. Yeah, I can switch whenever I want, like every minute if I wanted to. Will probably not make the servers happy, but I could swap between NA and EU like every minute. Wouldn't really give me anything, but I could do that, I think. Yeah, I mean, we bring this debate up every single stream, I would say, at this point, but it is quite like, it's a rumor at this point. It's not confirmed by ArenaNet or anything, so I will talk about this because we have some information about it from like looking into job posts and stuff, but it seems likely that they are currently working on something else in the background that is not Guild Wars 2 related. So we will have to see what exactly that is. They will probably announce it at some point, but I have no more information than you do about this, so we can just speculate about it. That's the truth here. Does not necessarily mean it's a bad thing. We will know when they tell us. Yeah, and it could be a Guild Wars 3, it could be something completely different. We will have to see. Yeah, and if you're enjoying Guild Wars 2, don't worry. Guild Wars 2 will not go anywhere in the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah. Yeah. If you play, yeah, exactly. If you play solo builds, like in like specifically open world solo builds, you can just play them in fractals, and you will be able to solo the instance. That is the idea of a solo build. Yes, exactly. Exactly. What's the best way to get enough hero points for the lead specs? So you can do that either by getting all the hero points, just normal unlocks, do hero point trains and stuff like that, or just do it yourself, or go into World vs. World and trade in, where is it? Those testimonies of like heroics. If you trade those in, if you play a lot of World vs. World, you get a lot of free hero points. I could like level like, I don't know, 100 or even more elite specs just from playing World vs. World. So that's one of the easiest way if you play World vs. World to level that. If you don't do that, if you just got level 80 and only want to play PvE, then the best way of doing that is probably, in my opinion, just getting a hero point train going on, just doing the map completion as usual to get the hero points from specifically, like for example, Visions of Eternity, getting it from End of Dragons. Those are the easiest ones to get. Those I would recommend. We'll probably get Guild Wars 3 at some point. You can only add so much. Yeah, I agree. I think it seems quite likely, but we will have to see. We will have to see. We have no confirmation, like I said, and we will have to see what ArenaNet cooks up, because they have no like confirmation about anything, and that is always something that you have to keep in mind. You know, if you don't get information about it, oh my god. Yeah, that should not be happening, but still, you know, reading chat and talking is always complicated. Should not follow the rotation at the same time and killing the group. Why do we need Spectre if we already have Scourge? I don't know. I personally like Spectre. I think it's a fun spec, but I don't know. But everyone sees it differently, I would say. Can you build Firebrand as a DPS for Arena? Is it viable? No. Firebrand is like in PvP, you play it as a support. That's pretty much it. Everything else is like grieving your team, sadly. The numbers are too low in competitive modes to play it as a full DPS build. Yeah. That's how it is. Do the hero points in expansion errors? Exactly. If it doesn't matter which expansion you do, you will always get hero points. And especially the ones from Visions of Eternity and End of Dragons are really easy to get. And those will be, so to say, unlocking any elite specs. So even if you go for the Heart of Thorns ones, you can unlock the ones from there as well. That's really nice. Yeah. So do you think it's not Guild Wars related? No, I think it's pretty much so my thoughts about this are that ArenaNet is working on something in the background. We know from the job postings it's a game that is built in a Guild Wars 2 universe style. We know from the job postings it's something that is built in a modern engine. It's probably multiplayer, MMO-like. We don't know if it's like a full-fledged MMO or something, seems likely. We also know it's somewhat console, so it will be console and PC. And I think it will also be... No, I think I don't play Spectre here. I think it will also be something that like is at least like not only in the franchise, but has some, so to say, connection to Guild Wars lore and stuff like that. That is my idea. But like I said, this is something that needs to be like confirmed. That is just what we have right now. Yeah. By the way, do you think we really needed 3 health pools in PvE in 2036? Not really, not really. But that's just how it goes, you know. That's just like power creep in a nutshell. It could be a little bit like co-op game, like you have some PvE that you do alone and you have some, so to say, instances that you play with others. Not as full-fledged open world as Guild Wars 2 is. But I don't know, I think personally, I think one of the biggest strengths of ArenaNet is having really good like open world bosses and stuff like that. So I think it seems somewhat likely that they will try to increase their loadout in their strengths already. You know, if you are really good at making open world fights and stuff like that, why say, okay, our new game will not include any of this? This will probably hurt their performance, I would guess. Yeah, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe they do the complete opposite and say Guild Wars 2 is our open world game. We want to make an instance content game with the next one. We will have to see. Yeah. We will have to see. Do you think we will get another aquatic weapon becoming a regular weapon? I don't think so. I think that could be happening. I think that's one of the most likely scenarios in terms of if we get a new expansion. but I think it seems rather unlikely because I think it is a bit more of a balancing issue. I talked about it earlier on stream. I think adding new weapons is something that is, what can I say? New weapons is something that is like increasing the balancing issues that we already have while not adding too much to the game as a whole. Yeah. So if you look at, oh my god, why is it so low? I don't have quickness. That's the reason. I was wondering, why is it not working? Why do my attacks go so slowly? But yeah. So I think the balancing horror that they will get by adding new weapons is not worth it in comparison to what you actually get as a player. Because if you look at classes like Ranger, Warrior, they already have insane amount of like weapon usages. Yeah. So which weapon would actually provide Warrior, Ranger with something like new to play, especially Ranger? What kind of weapon niche would you want to fill as a Ranger that is not already filled? I don't know. I think like making a trident usable on land is probably a fun thing to do, but it will just like either be power crept of a weapon that is already out, or it is something that is like just straight up not necessary or just worse than things that we already have. I don't know. I think both scenarios are not ideal. So I don't know. This is just what I think here. We have to be a bit careful here. They will explode. Okay, we did it. That fight is so easy. Like you see, I'm here like tanking. I'm doing like the claim mechanic while also dealing DPS and being the. It's weird. This fight is so easy. It's so good. I don't even have to move. There we go. Very nice. Very nice. So that's my reasoning why I think we will not get another weapon, and we will also not, in my opinion, get an aquatic weapon. That's my reasoning here, but that's just me. I think that is something very interesting. Guild Wars 2 has 4 game modes, major game modes. It has World vs. World as the open world PvP. It has PvP, which is the structured PvP with like instance gameplay and stuff like that. Then you have open world PvE, which is like world bosses, meta events and stuff like that. And then you have instance PvE, which I'm doing here on stream a lot. This is, so to say, like raids and stuff. What is the thing that is the most like likely to stay? I think instance content is pretty much a given, because that's something that Guild Wars 2 doesn't have as much as other games have. So that is something that like ArenaNet probably wants to invest more in, I would guess. At the same time, I think like World vs. World is a really unique selling point of Guild Wars 2. So will you make a game about the same thing? Will you make a game about your strength again? Or will you make something that is like completely opposite to that? I think the only game mode that I would say is on the, so to say, verge of being never in there is PvP. Because PvP is like so niche in Guild Wars 2. PvP is something that is like Guild Wars 2 was really built on PvP and it flopped. So the question is, what do they do? Do they say, now, this time, the third time is the charm? Or do they say, no, we learned from our PvP, like not issues, but PvP like ideas, and we will not do PvP in this game? Either way, I will play the game. I think I like PvP, but I'm not sure if PvP in MMOs is the major focus that you should focus on. You will have to see. Yeah. We will have to see. I think there are so many things that you can consider that you should talk about here. I don't know. It's really tough for me as a player. I will play the game, probably whatever it is, but I think you have to be really careful to not alienate your player bases, but also get a broader appeal, broader audience in there. I don't know. You have to be really, really careful to make it like right, to actually do it in a way that doesn't hurt Guild Wars 2 or not as much and the whole studio. Yeah. They could just make a map in World vs. World specifically. I guess that's also a way, yeah. Not making a full-fledged game mode, but making it just so like you have a dual spot or like some kind of 5 vs 5 small arena style in World vs. World. That could be fine. But like making a full-fledged game mode is probably like overkill. And was so many resources invested into something that, like, how many players play PvP? It's really, really small. Like, if you look at the leaderboards, you know, look at ranked. So, you know, this is like, I played a bit of PvP each season, yeah? Sure. But if you look at the leaderboards, you know, if you, like, go down here, like, there are pretty much 70 players, maybe 100 players in total, in Platinum. So, previously, in Platinum was, like, the league that you needed to be in 250 or even higher. Like, there was a time where Platinum was like, if you played a bit of PvP, you were in Platinum, if you had some knowledge about the game. Nowadays, it's like you are into the, like, top 250 worldwide in PvP if you're in Platinum. It's insane. PvP is really, really small. There is, and I'm not sure if the player base actually wants PvP as a whole at all in the next game. We will have to see. Yeah. We will have to see. I'm an old school veteran, so I want to have one main character that I'll play most of the time. Priority, top mobility, survivability, world versus world roaming, solo hard PvE, can't decide between ranger and engineer. That's a tough question. I probably would say Untamed is probably your best pick. I think it's extremely strong in solo PvE, while being extremely strong in world versus world, has good mobility. That would be my pick. Untamed Ranger that's the spec. Yeah. Druid is good, but Druid, in my opinion, is not as good in a solo situation as Untamed is. Untamed is the best solo build for Ranger. Full stop, I would say. Therefore, Untamed is probably the best. 20 versus 20 is more like a world versus world then, I guess. Yeah, but I think that could be in there. I think, like, completely butchering world versus world seems unlikely. I think world versus world is the game mode that I would suspect is probably in there with a high percentage. PvP, low percentage. Instance content, very high percentage. And open world content, pretty much also high percentage, I would say. That is my assessment of the situation. Of course, I have not more information. As usual, I want to mention this here. And I think Guild Wars 2, that's the good part, will probably stay alive 10 years at least, because Guild Wars 2, they do it with Guild Wars 1. Guild Wars 2 is their main game, but they still put out updates for Guild Wars 1 at this point. And they will do the same for Guild Wars 2 as well, I think, because they want to have their eggs in multiple baskets. That's the idea that I get there. Yeah. I feel like the best way to keep Guild Wars 2 somewhat active would be not including competitive mods in the next game. I think that could be a way to do it as well, yeah. I think in the end, I think it needs to also capture different audiences. You know, a game studio should probably try to make games that are not completely the same. You know, if you make a game that is a Guild Wars 2 clone with a better graphics, it's quite likely that Guild Wars 2 will die on release of the new game. But if you make a new game that is slightly shifted in the audience, then you have two games that you can actually get financially, like, support from. I think that's the best idea for ArenaNet, what they will do. I have, of course, like, no idea in terms of marketing and what is easy to develop and stuff, but that would be my reasoning, what I think makes sense. Yeah. We will have to see. 3 years max before maintenance mod? I don't know. I have really no information. Like I said, I think it could be like they just put out a normal expansion that we get nowadays, like Visions of Eternity, every 2 years instead of every 1 year. And that is the new, so to say, schedule. Maybe that's it for Guild Wars 2, you know? Who knows? And that would also be okay for a lot of players, I would say, because you don't need to have an expansion every year if you have the game still being maintained, even if Guild Wars 3 will ever happen. I think that could be a good middle ground. Yeah. I mean, the main selling point of Guild Wars 2's PvP is world versus world, I would say. No other game has, I would say, as good as open world PvP as Guild Wars 2 does. There are some contenders, but I think Guild Wars 2 does it the best, in my opinion. Yeah. Maybe Floor. Maybe it's an extraction shooter. Who knows? We will have to see. I think it's the only real thing that we can say is that they are working on something in the background, and we will have to wait until they announce anything before we can make any assessments of what it is, what it will include, what it will make with Guild Wars 2 happen. You know, it's very unlikely that we can like make any real assessments without them confirming anything, and I think that's fair. You know, You want to hold it close to the chest as a studio before you actually release any information about it, because you want to actually get the game in a state where you can actually talk about it without being scared of not making the game. You know, we saw so many MMOs flop that were like already out or almost like released like years ago, and they are still not out or will never come out. That is just something that needs to be like taken very, very cautiously, I would say. Yeah. People have been talking about the end of the game since it came out, and it's still going. Yeah, I think Guild Wars 2 will not go anywhere. I think Guild Wars 2 is a really good game, and I think a lot of people are playing it. I think Guild Wars 2 has, since Visions of Eternity came out, it's the best time for Guild Wars 2 since like, I think like End of Dragons. So that's like Guild Wars 2 is in the best state in the last 5 years. And that already means a lot. That means that Guild Wars 2 is doing good. Like, you would never kill a game that is doing good. That is just stupid. You would just invest the money, the resources that you have, reinvest them into something new. That doesn't mean that you will kill the old thing. You know, that's like a company that produces, I don't know, kegs, you know? A company produces kegs. You would not say, now I produce, I don't know, bottles, and I completely kill my company or my fabrication process that produces my kegs and just make bottles now. No, you would invest your money into new machines to make bottles on top of your already keg producing machines that produce kegs. Stupid example here, but I think that's exactly what ArenaNet is doing as well. You will invest something into a new thing that will give you more money, or at least continue to give you money in the future without killing the old things. That's my assessment here. Yeah. Would it be an issue if you move all players from Guild Wars 2 to Guild Wars 3? I think, to be honest, that would be an issue for Guild Wars 2, but I think that is not likely. I think Guild Wars 3, like I said, seems to be very likely not exactly the same game as Guild Wars 2 is, so you will not move the whole community, but you will gather a new community around it as well. And I think in total, you will get more players being playing Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars 3, Guild Wars 1, so all of ArenaNet's games. And in the long run, that is exactly what ArenaNet wants. More players playing their games, not playing one specific game. That is my assessment there. On the game, won't shut down for sure, but we will probably enter more of a Guild Wars 1 style maintenance. I think we will find something that is like the modern Guild Wars 1. Like in the last couple of months, we saw Guild Wars 1 getting more updates, getting balance patches, getting not only the servers being still online, but also getting actual like engagement, actual like things that are making the game being like actively developed. And I think that's exactly what we will get with Guild Wars 2 when Guild Wars 3 will actually eventually at some point maybe happen. I think that is my understanding of the situation. Doesn't need to mean that it's exactly what will happen, but I would be very surprised if that isn't the case. Yeah. They probably want to broaden their player base. Exactly. So I expect a game that maybe looks familiar in the same setting, but plays differently. I think, to be honest, it does not necessarily need to play differently. I think the main issue that Guild Wars 2 has, why it doesn't have a broader audience, is not because of its gameplay or its combat. I think that is not the main issue. If you would, like, so to say, ask a lot of other MMO players why they don't play Guild Wars 2, they would probably never say it's because of the combat. The combat is one of the things that a lot of players like when they play the game. So they are surprised when they try Guild Wars 2 that the combat is so fluid and so fun. I think the main issue that Guild Wars 2 has is that it doesn't really deliver in terms of content output and what the MMO community wants. So for example, a lot of the MMO communities want a lot of raids, want a lot of instant dungeons. They want to have stuff like that. Guild Wars 2 doesn't deliver on that. So players just play the games that do deliver on that, like World of Warcraft, like Final Fantasy, stuff like that. Yeah. And ArenaNet would probably be very smart by including those players in their new game, which are currently not playing Guild Wars 2. So I think the best way to do so is making a good combat that maybe have some heavy incentives of Guild Wars 2's combat, and then adding something that the player base wants, like raids and instance content and stuff like that Guild Wars 2 has, but way, way less than other games. So I think then you have the best of both worlds. That's what I would guess is realistic. Yeah. Yeah, I think Guild Wars 2 has a really nice appeal to players nowadays. That's why there are so many. So I can definitely see why your friends actually like enjoy it after joining. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that Guild Wars 2 is the strength of it. Is people don't know it as well, but if you try it, I think it's a fun game. Yeah, for sure. What do you think is the most versatile class, Mesmer or Guardian? Both of them. Yeah, I don't want to decide between those two. I would say Mesmer is extremely versatile when it comes to PvE. I think Guardian might be a bit better in competitive modes, but I think they are really, really close together. By far the most versatile classes, yes. Another problem is the game was balanced with ChatGPT up until like End of Dragons. Yeah, I think the problem is like, the funny thing is ChatGPT didn't exist before then, so yeah, I think the reason there is that ArenaNet, the balancing team, is like very small, and I think they are preoccupied with other things nowadays. And before, there was a really bad period like Path of Fire to End of Dragons, there was like, or something like that, there was a really, they mismanaged the balancing like quite drastically, I would say. Like they did a lot of mistakes and they lost a lot of players because of the balancing. Like competitive modes especially, but also PvE. A lot of balancing was like, didn't do a good job. Yeah. Nowadays, I think they do a way better job. It's not perfect by any means, but it's definitely way better. And this is something that is like really like losing players because of balancing is always like horrible. That is really, really bad. That's not what you want. Yeah. We have to see. I wish ANET discussed what percentage of the player base engages with different game modes. That would be so interesting. I would love to see this number, or all the numbers here. The problem is, that's the same reason why Blizzard doesn't, for example, release any player numbers. Yeah, Blizzard is an insanely big company, but they never release player numbers. Yeah, so actual numbers, official numbers for World of Warcraft or something like that. Why do they do that? Because as soon as they release those numbers, and then the numbers drop, people say, oh my god, the game is dying. And then they have negative publicity. And the same goes for Guild Wars 2. If you make those percentages public, people would say, oh my god, PvP has like 0.001% of the players only. This game mode is dead. And then the players that actually want to play this game mode are shocked and will not play this game mode because they think it's dead. And this is a vicious cycle that they will not want to enter. And that goes for anything. If like fractals or raids are getting percentages drops over a course of months and they reveal that, people say, oh my god, those game modes are dying, we don't play it anymore. You know, this is you don't want that, and that's why they don't release it. I can understand that, but I would love to see the percentages nonetheless. Hope that makes sense. Yeah. I want to play a healer and Field Troubadour might be enjoyable style. Does it work? Yes. Heal Troubadour is really good. Like in any game mode. Really good. Really good. Good choice. You think they will keep the horizontal progression? That is a tough one. I think they might actually add some soft vertical progression, maybe, to have a different audience captured as well. Just a slight one, but I think in general they will probably not make a sub-fee game. So it's quite likely that you want to have some kind of microtransactions, and microtransactions just sell better in games that don't have vertical progression. So I think my educated guess is they will keep the horizontal progression. That is my educated guess. T-Bot said in a video that in ANET dev more players in PvP than raids, which I find surprising. So that is true. There was a dev that told us that, but at the same time, the statement was from years ago at this point. So this is not something that is like up to date anymore. It could be still true, don't get me wrong, but we don't have any up to date information if this statement is true. So in my opinion, PvP right now is in the lowest amount of players that we ever had, and I would be very surprised if to this date the tryhard community, or like the players that actively play PvP every day, is lower than the player base that actively plays like raids every day. I would be very, very surprised. But we have to see if there's anything talked about that. Yeah, maybe a hybrid. Maybe we get a hybrid between vertical and horizontal progression. Who knows? Yeah. Something tells me the next game will probably be purely action combat oriented. That could be the case, yeah. Especially if you think about it, that we already know that whatever they are working on, it's quite likely to have console, like from the start. So it's console development from the start. that seems quite likely to me that the combat is less on pressing like 50 different buttons than having more of a combo system that you would expect in action combat. Yep, I'm with you there. That seems possible. Yeah. What is easier, safer to play, Heal Chrono or Heal Troubadour? I think Heal Troubadour is for most players easier and safer to play because it has like just pressing one button, getting like half of your health bar as barrier. That's pretty strong. I think Chronomancer, as I'm currently playing, is a class that has a bit more flexibility if you play it correctly. But in like especially new players' hands, I think Troubadour is the best choice for Mesmer healers. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. I think there was some like development devs in the balance team that were not healthy for the game. I don't want to like name call here, but I think they're like we all know that were back there actively playing the game. We all know what was the issue there. I think there was a specific dev that was not healthy for the community. I will leave it at that. For sure. Yeah, it could be more like New World. I think a lot of New World players already joined Guild Wars 2, and I think if you had like New World being, so to say, like dying or dead, and you have players that actually want to play a game, and you make a game that is actually, you know, like in German you would say exactly like, how is it called in German? There is a saying, I don't even know the German saying anymore, but like hit the nail on the head, like exactly the same thing that players want. This is pretty good. Like if you can make that happen, that's pretty solid. Yes, I agree. I think Troubadour and Chronomancer are pretty similar for fractals. I would probably say like in like with pre-stacking and stuff, like typically, like, I don't know. I think both of them are like really good in fractals. I personally like to play Troubadour nowadays a bit more because it has a bit more access to stability than Chronomancer. But like if you like Chronomancer, they are really high, like high level at the same level. Yeah. Yeah. You need to be careful on what you said, Syrma, or something will happen to you. I don't know. We will have to see. You know, we will have to see. I don't want to say anything more than that, but that's my thing here. Pits out. I need to be careful. Yes, as usual. What I say on stream here. You will always taken accountable for like stuff that you say on stream or like on camera in channel. Yeah, for sure. Welcome, Syntrax. Welcome. Nice. You're gaming. That's what we like. Very good. One of the fellow warrior enjoyers. Yeah. I mean, I made a video about warrior. What do you think, like Syntrax, as a warrior like enjoyer? Do you think like warrior needs? What does warrior need to be more like a side noder again in PvP in competitive modes? I know there's a Paragon build, but what do you think? Like, what would be the PvP community need as a like? Of course, I know you. It would be weird to not know you. I mean, I know the Guild Wars 2 community, but Troubadour has amazing stability access. Yes, I can show you if I play like Troubadour. I can slot in like essentially like full stability skills. Yeah, I can go like this gives stability, Crescendo gives stability. I can use my Mantra of Concentration, which are 2 charges. Both of them give stability, and I have like the Traherne thing here that gives also stability. And if you go like extremely crazy, you could also go for Mimic and then mimic the tail here, and then you get like even more stability. So essentially, if as a Troubadour you can upkeep permanent stability on your squad. Like it's possible. It's not like necessary, but you can do that. Yeah. Your question is hard to answer in a short text message, honestly. The design of Warrior is overall very difficult to blend for Arena because the skills and traits have extreme simplic and basic design compared to other specs. Yeah, that's exactly. I made a video yesterday. I released a video on my YouTube channel about Warrior, and I talked about it, that Warrior is simple and basic by design, and I think that's the idea of the spec. But at the same time, if you talk about specifically PvP, it needs to have some clear strengths because of that. Like looking at classes like Mesmer, looking at classes like Guardian that have a lot of teleports, that have a lot of like unique like abilities that can make them really strong, like Mesmer's Distortion. Warrior needs some other strengths, and I think especially as a side node warrior, you need to have a real impact as the side noder. And right now, I feel like that's the clear mindset a lot of warriors want to have in PvP, is like a side noding build. But if you look at like the side noding meta right now with like Blood Ritualists, with like having like some kind of dagger evokers or something like that, warrior is just not really living up to that in terms of like annoyingness. So maybe they need more numbers. Maybe they just need a complete rework. Like Bladezone needs a 100% rework, of course, but does like Spellbreaker need a bit more like rework as well? Do you need some more utility on some weapons? What is like the thing that you could do, like could make happen here? That's a tough choice, sure. This results in numbers being too high for warrior, which results in warriors being Omega busted like crazy when it's meta. When the numbers are too low, Omega, low Omega, is like unbearable and dogshit to play. Every time warrior was meta, it always was so fucking busted, 1v3. And when it's off meta, it's unplayable. Warrior is never a B tier spec, it's always double S plus tier or D tier. Yeah, exactly. I can feel you, know? I'm not a warrior main in PvP, but I remember the days when Bladezone came out, and I played warrior Bladezone like non-stop because it was insanely busted, because it was insanely tanky and you could abuse the like weapon stowing of the thing, and it was crazy. And then they nerfed it, and now Bladezone, like I think even in bronze you will never see a Bladezone, because Bladezone is just garbage. It's just horrible. And that like you see this like with almost all the warrior specs. I think Paragon is, in my opinion, I think Paragon is probably the best one out of those warrior specs in terms of like how it is to balance, because you see, I think a side noding Paragon is a decent build right now, and it's not busted. It's a very annoying build to play against, but we have really annoying side noders as well at the time. So yeah, I don't know, hard to balance. But thanks for sharing your insight as a really try-hard PvP player. Really like to know, always to have some information there. Yeah, I agree. I think like warrior has also like the animations on warrior. That's the thing. Like I always talk about that. I think animation changes is like pretty unlikely. I don't know. I think like animations are something that is so rigidly in the game, in like, I don't know. It's just like something that seems to be very, very like, people expect ArenaNet to change some animations and stuff, but I think they barely do that anymore. They do it with expansions, and that's pretty much it. Like I don't see that. I don't like, look at like Greatsword 2, you know? Greatsword 2 is an attack that has been exactly like this since the beginning of the game. Exactly like this. Would it need an update in terms of quality of life, that you maybe can move while doing 100 blades? Probably. Would it need some kind of animation update? I don't know. I think it looks like okay. It's not as flashy if you don't have a legendary, but it has like some reason to exist, I would say, like it is. I don't know. I think warrior has a lot of issues, but like I said in this video, I think there are other classes like Thief, like Revenant, maybe like Elementalist, that have issues as well. And I think you could probably name 6 out of the 9 classes that have really severe issues, not only in one game mode, but in all game modes, that could hold back their popularity. I think the only classes that are almost, so to say, free of any negative effects and people not playing it because the class has some negative balancing or something, are probably Guardian, Necromancer, and Mesmer. I think those 3 classes are the only, so to say, quote-unquote, perfect classes in terms of like raw, like what they can do, what they provide. And only the other classes, almost all of them, have some kind of smaller or even bigger issues than warrior. Yeah, and that's why I think I might start a series like that, where I talk about why a certain class is not as popular as it could be, and how I, as a player, would approach it, and what I think ArenaNet should do in the long run. You will have to see, though. You will have to see. Yeah. Actually has identity, like Bladezone. That's a really good point here. It has a really big identity, Bladezone. The problem is this identity just doesn't fit the game right now. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Syntrix, for sharing that. I'm not really like too much into the meta. I'm just playing the builds that I find fun in PvP, and that works out well enough. You know, it's like, you know, if you get into platinum by playing builds that you enjoy, then like what is the problem? Like the PvP is like, at this point, it's just like play for fun at this point. But thanks for sharing. A side note is a build that wants to be in a 1v1, 1v2 in PvP and wants to hold the node against like single players, stuff like that, or capture the point and stuff like that. Don't want to be in a team fight and is some kind of bruiser. That's the idea. Yeah, moving while using Greatsword 2 would be a nice improvement, but I think Greatsword, we mentioned it earlier, the Greatsword 5 is a rather weird skill, you know? This can be like completely going weirdly. You have like the 4 skill is actually not that bad, the 3 skill is not that bad, the 2 skill is not that bad if you hit it. It's just like Greatsword is like really, it got a little bit like power creep by everything else getting better, and Greatsword is just like the same. That's an issue, yeah. Yeah, Mesmer you could be argued that Mesmer lacks a little bit of AoE potential, but with Spear you actually have some AoE potential, so I don't know. I personally would say, like, for me, Mesmer is a class that, yes, you're right, it lacks maybe a bit of AoE potential, but at the same time, I think not every class needs to have everything. You know, that's what balance is, you know? A class that has, for example, like Warrior, a high health pool, has a heavy armor class, doesn't also need to have like insane amount of teleports, because that is exactly the drawback. For example, the original Necromancer design was a tanky, slow moving class. So the drawback was you would be not mobile. But nowadays you have teleports in almost every spec, so that means that this is like broken down a bit. So maybe you have an argument here and say, okay, Mesmer will also get AoE, because that was the original drawback of Thief and Mesmer, that they are not like insanely AoE heavy. At least power builds, yeah. You have to see. What elite specs do you recommend for me to compete in endgame also? So I would say, Brian, that's a really good question. I would say play the class that you enjoy. That's the important aspect, because even the tryhard endgame content can be done with every class. I have low intensity builds, that's what you're looking for. So builds that are specifically designed for using only, let's say, 1 to 5 buttons that you can easily do with one hand and be able to play that. I have like builds for every class, so choose the class that you like and look out for the builds that you want or that you find on my website or on my YouTube channel. You will find it. ! Website in the chat, you find it there. Yeah. I agree, Syntax. It's like, I really like to always make videos about like the competitive PvP scene's meta, but I have to be honest, at this point, I think the scene is so small that I don't even know if it's worth making videos about it anymore. That's the sad truth here. Like PvP, not only ranked, but also the competitive scene with the tournaments and stuff, it's just like it's a hobby within a hobby, and that's the sad part. I really like to do those analysis and say, okay, we have like this team going for like 2 side noding approaches, and where the other team has almost no side node and just roamers and stuff like that. But making a video like that and then like getting like 1k views, it's like it really hurts. It really hurts. So I would rather like make videos that people actually want to watch than just making a video that no one watches, and I think it's worth watching. It's not worth it in the end. Hope that makes sense. Yeah. I recently got legendary armor for light armor classes, but I really want to try hammer or longbow. I don't know if I should go heavy or medium for those weapons. So hammer, you could play hammer on elementalist. Hammer has hammer, like elementalist, especially like, for example, like Catalyst has access to hammer very easily, like you can do that very nicely. But I would say the best uses of hammer are typically like Warrior is really good and Ranger are really good with hammer. And Longbow specifically as the same thing is probably like Guardian, Ranger, and Warrior. Those 3 classes can use hammer and Longbow the best. It's your decision which ones you would choose, because it always depends on what game modes you play, what kind of like builds you find fun. Yeah, I cannot help you there. Choose the one that you like the most. Yeah. Yeah, Nick has also really good like videos about low intensity like builds and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely check out his channel as well. Good point by Tasha. Good point. Yeah. Hey Syrma, I've read online that Rev feels clunky. I want to try to play it. What's your take on it? So I think Revenant is not clunky. I think Revenant is one of the specs that is pretty fluid, especially if you play like DPS Revenant in PvE. One of my all-time favorite builds is like Condition Revenant. I think it's really, really fun. The problem with Revenant is that you have some like inherent like clunkiness in it that you have to manage energy, which can feel artificial. So if you play, for example, a Guardian or an Elementalist, you can use your cooldowns whenever you want to. If you spam your attacks on Revenant, I cannot use my 9 attack here because it needs energy. So if I spam my other attacks, this will make, so to say, my attack go on cooldown, even though I didn't use it. That can feel clunky at first, but if you get used to it, it's actually something that is definitely okay. Like Revenant is a class that is, in my opinion, really fun. And if you enjoy the class fantasy of it, give it a try because you will probably like it. I think if people don't like it, yes, it can feel clunky. But if you like the class fantasy, I think give it a try. Yeah. 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 I really like Revenant, but you definitely need to get used to the legend swapping and energy usage. Exactly, yeah. The upside is that a lot of cooldowns on the right side are quite low. Yeah, especially in PvE, the cooldowns are insanely low. Sometimes they don't even have a cooldown. It's really, really low and really, so to say, forgiving in that regard, but you have to manage the energy. So everything, I think that's how balancing should be, not only in PvP, but also PvE. A class that has an upside in terms of low cooldowns needs to have a downside in something else. That's how balancing works, so that people are excited to play something because of X, but have some drawback because of Y. Because if you only have positives, everyone plays this class because there are no drawbacks, and I think that's also not healthy. So you have to find a nice middle ground. Yeah. Yeah. My favorite class is Core Staff Minion Elementalist, but it's just not viable. That sounds like a cursed build if you want to play that in PvP. But I mean, I guess everyone to each their own, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Revenant is, I wouldn't say complex, but it's more complex than, for example, like a Necromancer. Necromancer and Guardian, they are really straightforward, really like you have your attacks, you have your Shroud, you have your tankiness or something, and that's it. But Revenant is more like there is a slightly level above with the energy management. But I think if you understand it, it's not bad. I think Revenant is maybe even less problematic because, you know, look at this. I don't have to choose my attacks. I have always the same attacks depending on the legend. If I swap to a different class, I have access to essentially 50 different attacks that I could choose and therefore mix and match. So that would be like, I don't know, a lot of different possibilities to switch my utility and elite skill and stuff setup. But for Revenant, you always are locked into your legends. So for new player, that can be a positive because you lose flexibility, but you also lose the issue of choice. So hope that makes sense. That is something like Revenant can be good or can be bad, depending on how you look at it. Yeah. Yeah, maybe Conduit will get some more nerfs, because it seems like it's still at 45k after this, which is really, really high damage numbers, yeah. Yeah, Hammer and Elementalist is a bit weaker right now. It needs to get buffed for sure, yeah. But Hammer Catalyst in competitive modes is okay. Like in PvE, it's just not as good, that's the problem, yeah. Yeah. The problem is instead of nerfing Conduit, they nerfed Core Condi Revenant. Exactly. I think that was like for me the biggest surprise that they nerfed Embrace the Darkness, which is a core elite Malek's elite skill attack. That is just not like the way to do it, because that hits Revenant as a whole. That hits Renegade, Condi Renegade, that hits Conduit, that hits Condi Herald, that hits like, even if you wanted to play for some reason Condi Vindicator, that's just not good. And that's an issue, because that leads to people playing classes that are just the least hit by this. But I think you should make, like for example, Herald was in a decent spot, so it's a little bit sad that Herald gets hit by this as well, even though it was like in a somewhat decent spot. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely a good point. So I want to switch a little bit of the topic here because I have something else planned here on stream. A little bit of a challenge set to myself. So where do we swap here? I guess we swap to one of my World versus World characters. Give me a second. So the idea here is I wanted to make a challenge for myself. It's a fun idea. I don't know if you will like it as well. Hopefully, I find it interesting. So you might know about World versus World. Yeah, World versus World has a really interesting like system with like specific like level up. Yeah, so you have World versus World rank. Maximum is 10,000. So you can level up your World versus World rank. You always need 5,000 points to level up, which you get obviously by playing World versus World. But I want to set myself a challenge to level up very, very fast in World vs. World and very, very high within 5 minutes. And I want to do that here on stream. So this is something that I want to like showcase, and hopefully you will understand what I'm doing. So I will explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And then after that, we can go back to the balance discussion. It's just something that I wanted to do for quite a long time. And now I finally have all the resources and ideas how to mix and match that. So let's set that up. Give me a second. So the idea is I want to get within 5 minutes 100 ranks of World vs. World. How do I do that? Seems very hard. I have two things here. I have those items here. And I have mist hardened lockboxes, which you get from World vs. World, or you can purchase from the trading post, and you can purchase keys for certain World vs. World currency at a World vs. World vendor. And out of those boxes become, so to say, liquidized World vs. World rank up items. Yeah. And the same goes for those boxes of World vs. World supplies. They also can be opened and have a chance of getting you a World vs. World rank. So those two things are the main resource here. If you stack up a lot of them, which I did here, you can open them, and if you get lucky enough and if you calculated it well, hopefully, you can get 100 ranks within 5 minutes. So that is the goal of this. Will I be able to do that? How can you get those? Because I already explained those. How can you get the boxes of World vs. World supplies? You can get them from those like converters here, where you can get like, for example, karma converting or other stuff. And I will showcase this here with this one today, because this one here has today in one of the conversions here for static charges, I get 1 box of World vs. World supplies. The others, they don't have it, but this one has it. So I will take this one, and the others, you can always check everything. But if you do that every day and just check and see what you find, you will get a decent amount of those boxes. And that's what I did. I just stockpiled them. And now I want to quickly showcase where you can get those mist-hardened lockboxes, because you can get them from World vs. World by doing the weeklies. That's the main source. Or you can buy them from the trading post. I just played World vs. World and got them this way. And then you will be able to get a really nice like amount of them. If you also have this dungeon merchant, if you talk to this guy, you will be able to purchase some lockbox keys, yeah, for a certain amount of World vs. World currency. So it's not free, it's definitely like costs something. And if you then open those boxes, you get some other items, which I will show you after this. So what's the first thing that I will do? I will, just in case, I think it's not affecting it, but I will use a World vs. World booster. I will set up my timer. Give me a second. So we have 5 minutes. That's the whole thing. So you should be able to see the timer. We will see if I can actually get my World vs. World rank. We are starting at 5257. So the goal is, can I reach 5357? That is the big goal. Will I be able to do that? Will I be able to do that within 5 minutes? That's the big question. Yeah. And you can not progress your reward track that way, but you will be able to progress the World vs. World rank. That is the idea. Yeah. So will I be able to do that with just opening those boxes where I can get some random chunk, but I will also get hopefully some World vs. World experience, and we will see how much I get from those. And I have some others stockpiled as well. So I guess that's like good luck to myself, and let's see if I can make it happen. 5 minutes. Okay. 5257. That's where we start. Okay, we already got 2 ranks from those 8 boxes. It goes fast. It goes fast. So we'll also go for like, we will open a bit slow here, and you will see sometimes the pop up. Bam, we got something. And it can be really, really high. It can be really, really low, or nothing. So we will just open all of them and see how far we get, and hopefully not break the game here. It already lags quite a bit. But the leveling is pretty fast. That's why I wanted to do it on stream here, because it's really fun. Okay, so we got effectively 67. So we got 67 ranks from opening those 226 boxes, I think. So pretty nice. Pretty nice number here. But we have more than that. We have more than that. We have more than that. Yeah, we got 67 ranks out of 226 boxes of World vs. World supplies. And then we also have the other thing. We have the other drops here that we will also use, of course. So we have, those came from the hardened lock boxes, you know, that you can just get from normal World vs. World rank. And dailies, weekly, stuff like that. And then I have just played World vs. World a bit. So we have here like a lot of those drops. I will just use all of them and click and click and click. That will take a while. But I still have like 3.5 minutes. So let's just click and click and click and get this done. And then we should get all of the others here. Like the yellow ones are really good because they already give me 15 ranks. So I think we should be fine. I think I pretty much like get it on the spot. Let's check. 57, we have like 20 more ranks that we need. Yeah, we get a bit more. We get more. We are good to go. Yeah. We are overshooting by like 10 to 20 ranks, and we don't even need 5 minutes. Of course, don't get me wrong. This is not a way to level World vs. World if you wanted to get this here done and I played just World vs. World and kill a lot of players or something like that. No, this is not the way. I'm talking about here min-maxing to get this done. So we already overshoot it. We are like at 120 now. It's pretty solid how much World vs. World rank we got here. Actually quite fun challenge, and I obviously calculated ahead of time how much I expect, but it worked out. So in the end, I can stop the timer now, so 2.5 minutes, and we are 137 World vs. World ranks up. So pretty nice, and we got some other random chunk like experience boosters and like a lot of food and some gilded lock boxes and even one ascended ring. We also got some other chests from the rank up. So pretty solid, I would say. Now we got even more World vs. World experience from the rank up. That's nice. So overall, I would say pretty successful. Yeah, pretty successful. I mean, it was, I saved up on that probably like, hard to say, like half a year, at least a year, something like that. Yeah, something like that, I would say. Oops, that's not what I wanted to press, but yeah, something like that. Yeah, so that's what you now got, like a lot of World vs. World ranks. Now you know how to do it. Joking, of course. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say for now. Bring back the stream and we can talk back. I just wanted to show this funny short excursion to my World vs. World leveling process. I think the boosters do not work. I just use them just in case, but I'm pretty sure boosters don't work on general like consumables. You know, if you open unidentified gear, if you open like karma drops, they are not typically affected by World vs. World. So now let's back to the yeah, I think like my World vs. World rank is actually pretty low for a veteran. Like most World vs. World veterans are like multiple of 10k rank. I think even I am pretty low for World vs. World. I think that's my least played game mode. Yeah. May I ask you, if I want to get a reward from World vs. World, how can I level that bar? I'm very new. Just by playing and killing other enemy players, by capturing camps, towers and stuff like that. Yeah, World vs. World is pretty, like you get very easily the rewards. Even like killing the veteran walk here, which is a special event. I will showcase this. Even that gives you like 600 experience with all the boosters. So that is like World versus World, pretty much everything that you do that is involving an event will give you experience in World versus World. Yeah. And that's why it's like the infinite leveling system is working there. You see 710 experience there because I have pretty much every booster that you can get on. Yeah. Yeah. I will do that. I will do a video about that, yeah. I did that here on stream because I thought it's a funny thing to do. But yes, I will do a video about this specific thing. So don't worry, I will do a video for my YouTube channel as well. Yeah. Yeah, it gave a lot of batches as well. That is true. How many batches did I get? I had like 30-something thousand. How many did I get? Like 4K or something. Pretty solid, I would say. Yeah, yeah. So what do we want to do? You will see. I'm on 2K after a year of playing. The guild was still there left for 4 more years, so I can get that goddess side. I mean, that's pretty fast, the leveling, you know? I played the game for over 12 years at this point, and I'm at like 5.4K or something. So yeah, I think you're leveled quite fast then. Yeah. What is the best elite spec for solo hardest challenges in open world on Mesmer? I would say that's pretty much surely like Chronomancer. Chronomancer is extremely strong. I have 2 solo builds for Chronomancer. You can always find them on my website. Yeah, like Condition Chronomancer, like Sai puts it, is insanely good. Like extremely solid, really underrated. I have a build guide about it. It's, yeah, just check it out. You will see it on my YouTube channel. Yeah. Yeah. Looking for a profession that is very good in every game mode, and I'm between Engineer and Mesmer. I personally think like Mesmer is probably better in the long run because Mesmer is more flexible in PvE, while also being always really good like in competitive modes with certain builds. Like for example in PvP you have currently like Burst Mirage being really good, will be even better after Tuesday's balance patch, but you also have really good like World versus World builds for Surging and stuff like that. But in PvE it's always a staple. Like Mesmer has so many good core utility skills that it's just like you almost cannot have a bad Mesmer. Like it's just almost always a good thing. Yeah, Mesmer is just a really good class over as a whole. It's like Guardian and Mesmer are, in my opinion, the perfect classes in Guild Wars 2 if you want to start out because they are so flexible and have almost everything in there. So yeah, had to hydrate here for a second, but yeah, always happy to answer. So if you have any questions, just let me know. I will try to answer them. I cannot promise you that I will know it, but I will try to do so. Yeah. After the nerfs, which specs do you think is going to get buffed first? I hope that like Herald, and I also hope that Catalyst. Those 2 specs seem to be like very bad in comparison to the other specs after the patch, and I hope this will be like buffed a bit. But we will have to see. Maybe the patch is already different. Yeah, could be. Yeah. I really enjoy Staff Mirage, but I find it so slow compared to others to kill. Yeah, it's a good DPS build if the fight takes like 5 minutes. But if the fight only takes 30 seconds, Staff is not a good weapon on Mesmer. It's a long, so to say, build up. Yeah. What are your top 3 most fun healers in Guild Wars 2? So right now, I would say Heal Troubadour is really fun. I really enjoy this build that I'm currently on here. I think it's really like flexible. It has a lot of healing, a lot of range. It has a lot of stability. It's pretty much the full package. What's another one? I really like Tempest. I think Heal Tempest is one of the builds that I think is really underrated and people should play it more often because it's really good. It's really like fun and actually quite easy for an Elementalist as well. And the last one. I don't know. I play a lot of different healers, you know? And for me, it's like I like to play different classes. So what is a good other healer that I like a lot? I actually like Heal Paragon. I like Heal Luminary. Those are my 2 other go-to options. I don't know. It's a bit tough, to be honest, to really like put out a single name on one thing as after that, because there are some things that are not as exciting to me to play. For example, I would not really like to play like a Heal Vindicator. I think that's weak. I don't think Heal Renegade is a good choice. but almost all healers are the third spot, I would say. Like for me, it's just Troubadour and Tempest that are a bit more like fun to play than the others. But I would say a third spot probably shared between Heal Luminary and Heal Paragon right now, really right at this moment. But this could be different next week. So yeah, that would be my answer there. Would I be better off a slightly supportive damage hybrid with full Celestial Paragon or going the Viper more damage shield? It depends what kind of content you're doing. If you're playing a lot of open world, I think like going a Celestial Paragon is probably the safer choice. If you're going for like raids and stuff like that, I would probably go for like full Viper. That would be my answer, yeah. Yeah, probably everyone is gonna get nerfed. Yeah, that's the correct assessment. What is a fast killing weapon for Mirage? Power-based weapons are better. So if you play power-based weapons on Mesmer, so for example, you have like Spear, you have Dagger, you have Sword. Those weapons are really good on Mesmer. Especially Sword is really good on Mirage. Sword is a really good like power-based weapon. You have Greatsword, that is a really good power-based weapon on Mirage. So those would be the top choices. And if you have access to Spear, Spear is also extremely good power-based weapon for Mesmer in all game modes. It's just really, really good. Yeah. Yeah, Heal Tempest is also really good with resurrecting people. Yeah, good point. There are so many like positives about Heal Tempest. That's why I think more people should play it. Yeah. Heal Vindicator got 1. Then I made my main Heal Troubadour and is healing like a monster. Yeah, I think like Heal Vindicator, if you play Heal Vindicator, you're like shooting yourself in not only 1 foot, but you're shooting yourself in 2 feet. Because it's like, it's possible to play a Heal Alacrity Vindicator in PvE, but compared to a Heal Troubadour, compared to like a Tempest, like Paragon, Luminary, even Scourge, it's just not living up to it. It's like it has less healing output, it has more clunky supportive, and it has literally 0 DPS. It really like you don't hit the boss at all, you just have support skills. And you have really bad like flexibility, you have not as much CC. I don't know, it's just all around missing pretty much everything to be on par with the others. I'm not saying it's unplayable, don't get me wrong. I think it's still playable, Heal Vindicator. But if you compare to the actual healers that everybody plays, then you see why everybody plays not Heal Vindicator. Hope that makes sense, yeah. Yeah, Heal Berserker is actually really underrated. Like, I think I have actually a video coming up about Heal Berserker, and I will prove you something that is really fun about Heal Berserker. I mean, we could actually play it here on stream as well, I have to be honest, if I find a group. Or I just have to do my own group, I guess. But yeah, I think like Heal Berserker is really underrated, like extremely underrated. Yeah. I feel bad, I do have Mesmer, but I don't like the race and feel bad to create a new one and waste this character. That is a fair point, Skyward. I think like either maybe you can also delete this character if you don't want to buy a new character slot. Sadly, we don't have something that is like able to change the race in Guild Wars 2, but I feel you. I started out with like, I think it was an Asura Elementalist, and I did not enjoy it as much. And as soon as I swapped to a human Elementalist, I think it was a Sylvari Elementalist actually, I had way more fun just because of the looks and how it felt. So yeah, I definitely feel you. I feel you. Yeah, so I should show the Heal Berserker. I mean, let's go for it then, yeah. Let's go for it. Let's do just the normal. Okay. So everybody can join, of course, as usual. If you have a decent meta build, you can just join. And we will do, I guess, IBS 5 and just let's do IBS 5, the usual. And give me a second, I will set it up so that everybody can join as well. If you're in chat, give me a second. Oh, everybody's here already. So, there we go. Let's see what we get here. Elect DPS, very good. So I posted in the chat, you can use that one to join. And the command, if you want to join, it's still open. I also posted in the YouTube channel. So you can also do that there. Okay, we have Elect DPS, we have quick heal, Nagas, very good, very good. And should also go to the thing. There we go. And yeah, I think the EU is actually quite lively. There are a lot of like people joining and stuff. Of course, I'm like streaming right now, so more people are like joining than usual. Of course, that's always like the case. Oh, wait, I wanted to play Berserker. Anyway, I will switch to Berserker after this. Just want to get not this. And then we just need DPS, I think, at this point. As usual. So we can swap now to Berserker, because that's what you wanted to see. You wanted to see a quickness heal Berserker, but special episode. We have a special twist on this. Special twist. Special twist. So I will leave it a bit more open so that people from chat can join. We have still one more space, so one more spot. If you want to join, you can do that. And if not, then we will just find someone. We go here to set up my own build again, because I destroyed it to showcase the weapon earlier. That's fine, that's fine. That wasn't Doom, it was something else. Can't remember what it was. What was it? I don't know. We will use that one for now. And I guess it's fine. I guess everybody is in that wanted to join. And we will just look for DPS. Okay. I think I like the Asura animation nowadays as well on Elementalist, don't get me wrong, but back then I didn't enjoy it as much. Back then I was a bit like not as happy. I was not as happy. But that, you know, sometimes stuff changes. That's just the nature of things. Just the nature of things. Yeah, I was like, I'm posting my stuff always in chat, in YouTube chat and Twitch chat first, so people can join from there if they want to join. And then if I still miss people, then I can do it in the LFG. Yeah, so that's why I was not in the LFG for the most time, because most people here in Squad are actually watching on stream. So that's good. So I will showcase the build boxy, don't worry. But I will also make a video about it. So if you are like interested in the details of this is a full Celestial, like full Celestial heal Berserker. And it has very good healing output while also having surprisingly good like damage. So we will have to see. We need everybody to come in. And then we can start it. But yeah, I think like people really... What was the sub goal for going bald? You remembered it. I mean, I have to put it back up if you want to know. There are the sub goals. Yeah. We are currently far away from reaching that sub goal, so I'm pretty safe that my hair is safe, you know. But I mean, if you want to make that happen and want to see a bold Syrma, I guess then you know what to do. It's a more of a long time thing. So if that happens at some point, I stand by my word, but not yet happening. Thanks a lot, Davaka. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for the prime. I guess you want to see it. You want to see it. Okay, I think everybody is now here, hopefully. Let's do the ready check. And let's go. Let's go. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, this build is really good. Like, it really is underrated. We will see why this is so good in a second. But the damage output here is like, we have a good group. You can see that here. Because we actually have like no real healer here. No one. We have a Celestial healer by the Firebrand as well, and I'm playing also Celestial, of course. And you can see we have a decent like group in terms of DPS, and we also have nice healing output. I even have nice stability output in this like build. It's really like people underestimated how good heal Berserker is, especially if you want to play it as a Celestial. I have to be honest, I was one of them. I was also underestimating how good this is, but it is really good. You can see the DPS is really solid, and I'm out DPSing like even our Alacrity DPS. I'm not like name calling or anything. Everyone like it's still good. I'm just like want to showcase the potential of this build. I really want to showcase this. Yeah. I have a Sylvari Mesmer and I feel like I wanted to be human. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. I mean, I have obviously nowadays like a lot of different characters, but in the beginning of the game, I only started out with like 1 or 2 that I played. And it really decreases the fun if you don't have the race combination with the class that you actually like. It really decreases the fun. It's crazy, but it is. Yeah, it really is. Welcome, Marcel. Welcome. How you doing? How you all doing today? I think it's fun to showcase some not meta builds here as well. Love my Sylvaris, most common one for my characters. I think for me, Sylvaris are also like, for me, if I would have to choose a character without having like any like already existing ones, I would probably choose Sylvari nowadays. I think it's the most unique class and race combination that you can make. Because I think Sylvaris are the ones that you don't have in any other game. You know, this is something that is like, it's solid. It's something that exists in all like games are humans. You have some kind of like large humans. That is something that happens all the time. But Sylvari is something that is unique. You know, that is something that we don't have in a lot of games. At least for me. Yeah, nice. So you can see I also cover the stability here. It's like pretty solid here. What we can put out. And the DPS is obviously here also very high because we have like 2 targets. I can also cleave them down. No, why did my banner not go through? Sorry, my party. I thought I had the banner cast, but apparently I didn't. That was really my bad. I thought like I casted it, but apparently I interrupted it or something with weapon swapping. So sad, but it was fine nonetheless. I really like this fast swapping here. Wait, we're in combat. I like Sylvari, but I can't see past the running male animation. Yeah, I think males Sylvari. I have like 5 male Sylvari and I have like 10 or so female Sylvari, or 9. I think female is for Sylvari definitely superior. I would say. I think they look more natural, more fitting to the race. Yeah, I'm with you there. All human female? Oh yes, like the majority of the player base. I mean, that's normal. That's okay. It's okay. Yeah. I feel like everything is made for humans and then just ported to the other races. I think, Mark, you're there pretty much onto something. I think that's how they develop skins. I think it's not something that they will admit, but I agree that this is something that is like a little bit sad. Yeah. That it seems to be the case that humans are like where almost every single thing doesn't clip, where everything works perfectly fine. And then you have like all the other other races that sometimes, like for example, Sylvari, sometimes like Noan, they fit decently well, but Asura and especially Char, they can be completely like not very well suited. Yeah. And sometimes clip into everything, especially the tail for Char, that can be like really bad. Yeah, but I mean, what can I say? That's just like, I think different character models have different strengths, I guess. Yeah. I know Mesmer is probably not the most beginner-friendly class, but would you say Power or Condy Mirage is easier to play for PvE content? I think like Condy Mirage is easier to play, like especially the Staff variant. You can play Staff, Condy Mirage, Staff. That is really easy. I made a low-intensity build about this just like a week ago or something. Can highly recommend this if you want to play it. But in general, I think like Mesmer is not the beginner-friendliest class, but I think it's not bad. You can play like full Condy Staff Mirage really easily. Power Mirage is, in my opinion, pretty. I would not recommend Power Mirage for most people. It's just not like, give me stability. It's just not something that I think is like very accessible. Power Mirage is already, even for tryhard players, not the best, and for like most players, it's probably something that I would not recommend. Yeah. It's fun though, like tagging with Greatsword and just spamming the ambush attack, it's quite fun. The Revenant Sylvari is pretty good. That is true. Okay, 2 more to go. One of the characters that I visually like is my Norn the Revenant, but the problem is I can't play it in open world. So it made me quit. That is fair. You know, you should play what you also enjoy like playing in actual content. Yeah, that is a fair point. Welcome, Amix. Welcome. Would like to start to do PvP from unranked to ranked. What is a good build to easily start? So Mesmer is like one of the hardest ones to start. Mesmer is in PvP always very fast-paced, very skill-oriented, very unforgiving. I would say like starting with like Ritualist or Reaper is probably your better choice because they are more forgiving, they have also good impact, and they are just like a bit safer, I would say. That's what I would recommend. But that doesn't mean you should like listen to me here, yeah? You can play every build, you just have to put in the effort, you know, it takes a while. Being patient and training and not giving up is probably the best thing you can get anyways, yeah. That's just my analysis, you know. Oh, we lost 2 people. I guess I should have gone for banner, like 3 people even, that's crazy. It's okay, happens to the best of us, you know. That's okay. I don't know why I didn't get the special action key here, though that's fine. Now I get it, okay. I guess it's completely like lost it, but okay. What can you do? Let's get this going. And hopefully we can get some nice healing. You can see my healing output, or it's actually surprisingly high. You know, people always think, oh, Celestial builds, you cannot play that on Bone Skinner. But to be honest, you can. You really can. You just need to know when to use your attacks and stuff. But it's definitely doable. We also have, of course, less people and 2 healers now, so we can overheal very easily. But still, my point is still holds true. You have to be a bit careful here now. Some barrier, some more healing. Put this up and some more barrier, and we should be fine. Oops, we should also cast the barrier on our spot though. That's something that you should always do. Use your banners on your group. It's fine, it's fine. Some more barrier out. And dodge, and go. More healing. There we go. Looks good, looks good, looks good. Bit scuffed, could be better. Losing 3 people is not ideal here, but we can heal the rest now easier and should be fine. There we go. Now I can read chat again. Power or Condi Reaper? I think both of them are actually in the current meta quite okay in PvP. I personally like Condi better, but I think in lower level it's actually Power might have even more impact. Yeah. Now, do you like the Celestial Circa heal better or Celestial heal Paragon? I think heal Paragon is probably for most people better because you have more instant access or like very easy access to stability. But I like this a bit more because I think I'm just like a how can I say, a Berserker fan. You know, I just really like Berserker. I think it's the most original warrior spec. I really enjoy it. Thanks a lot, More. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for the Prime. Hope you're enjoying the stream. But yeah, this is just my analysis. You know, some people like Paragon. I also like Paragon, but I think Berserker is just more fun to me. Yeah. I'm very sad to say low intensity Gale Shot was nerfed. Yeah, low intensity Gale Shot got nerfed and nerfed and nerfed, and the next patch will not make it better. It's really sad. Like Gale Shot, I really was so proud of myself that I found a really low intensity build when Visions of Eternity released. But sadly, they nerfed it and nerfed it and nerfed it, and it was not even the target. It just got like hit in the crossfire. It's really sad. So yeah, hopefully they will buff it, and maybe I can make a low intensity build very soon. But this is not really like good anymore. Sadly, it really isn't. Which is so sad because like it's, to be honest, like it could be such a good target for a low intensity build. Yeah. Yeah, the boss is weird. It's not everyone's favorite. I can see that. I don't know. I would not like go as far as you would do, Smugcut, but I personally think like the balance is not perfect. Yeah, you should definitely like change some stuff up with the balance, but we have to get some more out here. That's good. But I think it like they are trying their best. I really think like some of the balance like decisions are questionable, but most of them are understandable, at least for me. Yeah. Can we keep Berserk mode active? That's the big question. It's always like, that's the big difference between Paragon and Berserker here, is that Berserker needs to keep a lot of stuff like during phases active, and that's a bit like sometimes more annoying, you know. Ooh, we lost some people here. Some healing. Yeah, because you need to keep the Berserk form active, which is not as trivial as like just pressing your F skills on Paragon off cooldown. Because you need a target here, you know, you need a target. But it looks like we made it to the next one here. Some healing. Oh, it looks good, looks good. People said a good race for Necromancer are Sylvari, and best race for Mesmer are humans. I don't know, you should always choose the one that you like. You know, some people say, oh, you should use this, you should choose that. I don't know. I think that's not how you... If you like Sylvari and Necromancer, go for it. If you don't like it, go for something else. That's what I did, and it worked out pretty well for me. Some stability here. Nice. And got them. It's always important to provide stability for your poor party here on this boss when this guy respawns. Looks good. Some healing just in case. And like I said, this is now just a showcase of the build. I will not go into detail how it worked. I will make a video about it, or yeah, will come out I think next week. So keep an eye out for that one. Thanks for everybody for joining from the chat. It was fun. It was nice. As usual. As usual. You know, exactly. Kek W. Yeah, half stack. That's how you do it. Kek W. Exactly. So, thanks a lot, Boxy. Really appreciate the support. Some support for the channel. Exactly. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. That's what keeps this channel going. So, thanks a lot for the super prime. Really appreciate it. For the super chat. Really nice. Really nice. Yeah. Welcome, Sim. Welcome, welcome. I love and play almost Ranger and have two Norn Char, and would like to try Asura and Human, but Norn and Human is a similar lot. Yeah, they are very similar. And I think that might be for someone that always wants to optimize things, but for me personally, I would say like creating like 5 characters that have the same class but have different races is a little bit of a waste. Yes, you can do that. Don't get me wrong. You can do that. It's not the worst, but I personally would say if you're a player that doesn't have all the classes yet, I think it's better to create different characters with different classes. I know, before you say anything here, chat, I know I'm a player with 70 characters, so I cannot judge you for doing that. But I'm saying for a new player, it's more smart to say, okay, I have a warrior, I have a mesmer, I have a elementalist, I have a revenant, I have a thief, I have a necromancer, and so I can cover different classes, whatever mood I'm currently in. But if you have only rangers, then you just changed a little bit of the looks, but you don't change your actual coverage or builds that you can play. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. But do what you want to do, you know. I will not judge. I have 70 characters for a reason. Yeah. Yeah. Since End of Dragons, the balance has been quite good. Not perfect, but good. And with the power creep getting tuned down, it's getting better. I'm with you there. I think that's exactly what it is. Yeah, exactly. Welcome, Freizeitrentner. Welcome. Is there a cheaper alternative to Harriers when you play Heal Chronomancer? So the thing is, like, if you play Heal Chronomancer, you have effectively, in my opinion, 3 stats that you can use. That goes for essentially all healers. Yeah. So if I go for my Heal Chronomancer, I have here Harriers. And Harriers is pretty expensive. If you buy Harriers from the trading post, you need to buy the insignia. And this is pretty expensive. Even the exotic stuff, that's already pretty expensive. Yeah. But the alternative that you can get is like Minstrel. Minstrel gear makes you always the tank, but is essentially giving you pretty much the same. But Minstrel, I think can you buy Minstrel? I think you cannot buy Minstrel. You can buy Minstrel as well. Minstrel you can buy is also pretty expensive. So it's not like an alternative that is cheaper. So what is the last alternative? It's Giver. Giver is the last alternative. It's not giving you vitality, but gives you also toughness. So it's also good for healing. You can buy Giver. You can buy Giver stuff as well. It's a bit cheaper. Yeah, it's a bit cheaper here, but it's still not very cheap. And it's just exotic. Ascended gear is always more expensive if you want to craft it yourself, but ascended gear you can also select yourself. If you like get from the Wizard's Vault, for example, you can get this stuff. So I personally would say the cheapest option, and probably a really solid option for most cases, is like going Givers. But it's still not like as cheap as if you would go like and get Berserker gear from your Fractals or something like that, where you can get it from a vendor. This is not the case here for Givers gear. You need to have stat selectable pieces there. So hope that answers your question, but that's probably the go-to option. Yeah. Yeah. Always happy to help. Yeah, of course. Exactly. You can always, that's a good point here. You can always look for the stats that you're actually looking for, and then that can help as well. You know, it's like the cool part is like Guild Wars 2 is pretty like flexible in gearing. You know, in other MMOs you have like to run a certain, if you're a healer you have to run a certain combination. But in Guild Wars 2 healers are the most flexible, so to say, stat types. You can run Givers, Minstrel, Harriers. Some healers use Magi gear if you can cover the boon duration. Yeah, so you don't need to have boon duration on the gear. It's pretty like get what you can get, and that will probably be fine. You also don't need necessarily to have exactly 100% wound duration. Some healers can upkeep 150% of their boons, so to say, like you can upkeep alacrity 150%, so to say, over your normal thing. So that is, then you don't need 100% wound duration. 85 would be fine or something. And on Mesmer you even need less, because you can get, if you get Regen, where is it? I need to switch my build as well. Give me a second. If you get Regen, you also have more. You see, I'm at like 96 now, and with food I would be at 100. So it's like certain classes get certain traits, procs and stuff like that. So you just want to get as high boon duration and healing power as possible, and as much toughness and vitality as you need, and then you would be fine. That's my analysis here. What is the best way to get a tier 10 Jadebot core? You would just purchase it from the trading post. I'm sorry, that's a really boring answer, but you just purchase it from the trading post. It costs like 20 gold or something, 27 gold. Yeah, you purchase it once and then you have it, and that's the best that you can get. And you could craft it yourself, but the time that you need for that, it's not worth it. In terms of like what you can equip for your Jadebot that gives you the most amount of gold, I really like to use Scavenger Protocol Magic or Might trophies, one of those two, because they will give me passively every now and then, if I kill an enemy, those scavenger bags. And those scavenger bags contain, I can open some of them, some random like stuff, like some random magic trophies or might trophies. And if I get lucky at some point, I will get tier 6. Yeah, and those tier 6 things are more worthwhile to get than others, and that's just over the long run. If you kill a lot of mobs, then you will get your value back very, very fast. It just takes a while, but you will get your value back guaranteed. That's why I like to take them, because you always need that. There are some others, you can go for leather, you can go for wood, but they are not as worthwhile in my opinion, or not as useful in most situations as the trophies. Yeah. If you want to craft your own Ascended gear, you need 500 leveling. Yes, you need to go have like the specific like crafting profession to level 500. So if you want to craft, for example, light armor Ascended gear, you want to have Tailor to 500. Yes. For my Paragon, should I stay Celestial, getting my Ascended gear, or switching into a healing focus for evolving in Fractals? I think you both are fine options. Thanks a lot, King Salam. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for the Prime. Hope you're enjoying the stream. And I really appreciate the support. But like full Celestial Paragon is really good, even in Fractals, but it's really shining in open world. So if you want to evolve your Fractal gaming, I think like getting a different gear set is always really good, so that you have the option. But I think it's also okay in Fractals, like especially tier 4 Fractals, it's completely fine to play as a like Celestial build. It's completely fine. Yeah. Yeah. So Giver's gear is, I think, not sold by Fractals. I think Fractal is really limited to the core things, sadly. Yeah. Welcome. Welcome, Bifon Joe. Really appreciate it that you are showing up here. I like it. Very good. The sensor array, you cannot The sensor array you purchase from the trading post as well. Sorry, yep, exactly. So you go to the trading post as usual and purchase your, how is it called? Like, what's it called? Is it sensor array? No, it's, how is it called? Like it, scavenger protocol. That's how it's called. Scavenger protocol. It costs like 7 gold. You will have that in like typically, I don't know, depending on how much you play, it's actually really easy to get. But the problem is you cannot just equip it. It's not like normal equipment where you can just say, okay, I will just equip it. This is not how it works. To equip those, you have to go to like one of the End of Dragons maps. And in there, in Arborstone, for example, there are those on top. You use the zipline to get up there. And then there is this like bench or something like that. And then you can, on the bench, interact with it. And only there you can exchange your Jadebot core as well as the scavenger things. So I will quickly showcase this because this is a bit annoying. If you're a new player, you might not know this, but this is definitely like if this Jadebot workbench, you need to be here to actually exchange that. So that helps. So you see here I can actually exchange that stuff. Yeah. Exists a method to see when some wings bow skins returns and if they return? You can always check the wiki, or like you can always check also. I think you can check that Shaman's website, but other than that, I think like you don't have any like really like in-game things where you, or like pop-ups or something. But just every Tuesday you can check if there is something in the gem store that you want to get. That's Tuesday is the update day, and that's what you should do. Sadly, nothing better there. Yeah, the protocols are really good because the protocols work in every PvE instance where you get kills. Even if you don't get experience from them, you have a chance of getting the proc anyway. So that's really fun. And it even works in World vs. World. So that's one of the things why I even have it on my World vs. World characters. The lower one doesn't work, but the upper one works. So that's really cool. I'm fairly new to the game and I'm playing a lot of PvP. To make legendary gear from PvP, I need 500 in any profession. I don't think so. I think you can make legendary PvP like armor and backpiece without having crafting leveled. Yeah, so you don't need that. That's the good thing. It's not account-wide. This is character bound, so you have to get it for every character. That's the sad part. Like, that's why I only have the Jadebot core tier 10 for actual characters that need it. So PvE characters need it. World vs. World character don't need it because the vitality you get from your tier 10 core is only in PvE. So if you play a character exclusively in World vs. World, you only need a tier 1 core to actually equip your scavenger protocol. I think. Like, it's not tier 10 at least. Yeah. Hope that makes sense. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's the service chips, they are also the service chips are a bit weirder because the service chips, they are like, you have to get them yourself. I think you cannot like buy them, but they are also not as impactful. Like, I just have some of them lying around. I think you should just get what you have and craft it yourself. The others, they are really impactful. You should definitely get them. Like, more survivability and more loot. I mean, who says no to that? For free, yeah. Yeah, the slivers are also okay. The problem with the slivers is that the slivers are, in my opinion, very dependent on what kind of content you play. The scavenger protocol is really like, it just gives you passive more gold. And I think that's just awesome. The slivers are also giving you passive more gold, but I think it's less than the magic trophies, for example. If you had to pick one class to play for all content, what would you pick? Mesmer. Mesmer or Guardian? I think for me Mesmer because I like the fantasy more, but I think both of them are really, really good. Yeah. Leveling Huntsman or any profession from 400 to 500 is just a gold sink. It's not really like you just have to invest some gold and craft some equipment and like that's it. I could make a guide about it, but it would not really be like very helpful. But because as soon as I make it, it would be more expensive to do this method. So I personally would say just find anything that gives you experience, and then by leveling, and that should be fine then. Yeah. Before I go eat my dinner, I want to ask you one question. On Mesmer, can I use Celestial Armor to play Condition Virtuoso or Chronomancer Boon Support Healer? Or that type of armor not fit? So Celestial on Mesmer is, in my opinion, you can play it on Troubadour, you can play it on Chronomancer as a healer. I would not recommend it on a Virtuoso. Virtuoso is like, either you play a full DPS Virtuoso and you really say, okay, I'm going like a Rampagers mix or something like that. but full Celestial Virtuoso is like okay, but you like make only use of half the stats. So it's not, I would not really recommend it. Chronomancer on Mirage and Troubadour, they are really good users of Celestial. But Troubadour, or Virtuoso rather, I would say better go like full power or go full Condi, not some kind of mix. Hope that answers your question. Yeah. You never done Engineer Scrapper? What do you mean? I did. I did just do a video about it like last week or something. I think Engineer Scrapper is really, really good. Like really, really good class, and you can play it like so many, like you can play full healer, full DPS, Celestial, you can play everything. It's one of the best engineer specs in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, of course. I mean, I covered every class. I covered every elite spec, every class multiple times. I have even solo builds for all elite specs on my channel on YouTube. I have everything. And the thing is, I have so many videos that you might not see all of them. So if you want to find a video, I can always recommend you to check out my website. I normally don't do this, but I think I have to show it here because it's really like, it needs to be shown. It needs to be shown. I have here my website. I will quickly showcase this here so that you actually see it. This is my website. It's completely ad-free and you find all my build guides there. You know, if you go to build guides, you see all my build guides. And the good part here is because YouTube doesn't allow that, you can search for engineer and then you can find all my engineer builds. And you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Scrapper build guides. So yeah, I have Scrapper covered. So it's like you just need to look for like what you need. You will find it. And the cool part is you can also look for tier lists if you're a tier list enjoyer. My website is really about like you find what you're looking for on my channel better than you would find it on YouTube. That's the thing. And you can always like find it. Yeah. Yeah, the problem is like I like to have you watch my YouTube videos, don't get me wrong, but the YouTube search algorithm is pretty bad. Like if you go on YouTube and look for a specific video of mine, you might not know the title of it. So how do you find it? I have no clue. So that is something that definitely needs to be like, that's why the website is really good. I can link it in chat, but it's always linked in my like description of the stream, of the like comments. I always link it in every video. It's always in the description, in the streams, in the like videos. It's like called Syrma.cc. And pretty easy to remember. That's just my name and .cc, so really easy. But yeah, hopefully that helps. Which healer is the best? It always depends on the situation. Like there are so many good healers. I don't want to answer this question with just a single sentence. So either you check out my tier list where I talk for 20 minutes about the best healers, or you just say it's situational because that's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. What is your favorite expansion in terms of what you get out of it? I personally like End of Dragons is for me one of the best expansions because the content is really solid. Like let's look at the expansions here. End of Dragons has good content, good elite specs, and just all around really polished gameplay. But for me, slightly higher is Heart of Thorns. Heart of Thorns is slightly higher because it provided the original masteries, the original elite specs, so it really gave, so to say, the starting of all the good things. And the maps are just beautiful, like Auric Basin, Dragon Stand, Tangled Depths, Verdant Brink. They are so good. I personally think this is the peak of Guild Wars 2, not only in terms of content output, but also in terms of what the actual like features were. This is just my opinion, but those two are pretty close together on top. Yeah, I would say. How expensive is it to run the website? I think it's like you have to really, I wanted to get like a really cool ending, you know, the URL, the ending, how's it called? .com and stuff like that. There are some really like cool ones, and I got like .cc, which is quite fun. This was rather cheap, but it costs me something. So it's like, for me, I don't get much out of it. I don't have any ads on there, so it's just a, so to say, a feature for you to find the videos that you're looking for. It's a like, I'm not saying it's like bad for me, but it's definitely like, it could be cheaper. I don't know the exact price. It's not that high though. Could be like, sometimes you pay like 20, just for hosting it, like $20 $1 a month that can be happening depending on what kind of like URL you have. But this one is a bit cheaper, so it's not too bad. Yeah. Can you speak German for me for 30 seconds? I don't know, the others would not understand it. I don't even know what to say. Tell me what I should say, and then I can maybe tell you something in German. Yeah. Have you ever played Guild Wars 1? No, I actually have never played Guild Wars 1. I would be willing to play it, but I think it's for me, I'm a bit too... I like active gameplay and jumping and like being like movement and stuff, and I think Guild Wars 1 is a bit too slow paced for me. Yeah. Domain name, that's exactly. Thanks. Yeah. As a player who has got all of it, not all, if not most endgame stuff, what are your goals in the game? So that is a really good question, because a lot of people say, I play this game to get X, to achieve this achievement, to get this legendary, yeah? And for me, I have like pretty much achieved everything that I want in this game. But I still like playing it because it's fun. I think fun is the most important aspect in playing games. So I like to make content about while I have fun playing the game. So this is my whole idea. Do I have any goals in the game? I don't know. I like to have all the legendaries, which I currently have, and therefore I will get the legendary accessory as soon as they drop. But other than that, I don't really have like big goals anymore. Like currently I have the goal to get my like infinite utility primer and food primers from World vs. World, but I need a lot of tickets for that, like World vs. World skirmish tickets, which is just time gated, so I need to play a lot of World vs. World for that. I don't know. I don't really have any big goals. I just like to play the game for fun and make content about it. Will we ever get tier 5 fractals? I hope so. Okay, Piggy, like, die Frage ist, was habe ich zum Frühstück gegessen? Die Antwort dafür ist, ich habe tatsächlich gar nichts gegessen. Ich esse nichts zum Frühstück, typischerweise. So, that was not 30 seconds, but it was something that I talked in German about. Just for you. How bad do you think the Troubadour nerfs will affect them in World vs. World meta? Pretty bad, Shay. I think Troubadour might fall out of favor, to be honest. Sweden is the best country in Europe. I mean, it is. Yeah, Schweden ist das beste Land in Deutschland, in Europa. I don't even know how to speak like German all the time because I speak English all the time. That's so crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I feel you, Mark. I mean, Guild Wars 1 is a good game. It's just like I was starting to play Guild Wars 2, and then you don't really have an incentive to play Guild Wars 1 if you like Guild Wars 2 so much. You know, hope that makes sense. It's just a different game. Yeah. I know, a lot of people like breakfast. I know this for a fact. It's just for me, it's, how can I say? You know, it's first of all, I know it's healthy for the body, for the human body, to not eat like all the time. That sounds stupid at first. Let me explain that. It's an interesting like argument. I think we never had that on stream here. So a lot of people like always like, oh my god, he doesn't eat anything in the morning. But I don't need that. I never do that. I know breakfast is a really cool meal. You can eat like really nice things there, like, but you can also eat them at another time of the day. You don't need to eat it in the morning. And the human body is not necessarily made for eating like 3 times a day. You can just easily skip one of the meals and your body will actually thank you for it, because you will be able to recycle some of the chunk that you have in your body during that time, instead of like filling it up with new stuff. Hope that makes sense, but I really don't need it. Like for me, it's really like I save time while doing it, and my body is also happy. So why would I need to eat something in the morning? I hope that makes sense. I know not everybody will agree with this, and that's completely fine. But for me personally, that is something that I did for years at this point, and it really is just getting used to it, and then you are completely fine. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Fasting is healthy. Exactly. It's better to have 2-3 big meals than 5 smaller ones. Exactly. We really don't want to like stress your body, or like your body should not become in this like mindset of like, okay, I will get food like every few hours all the time, because then your body doesn't really learn to live without it. But this is something that we learned in the evolutionary history as humans, obviously all the time, because like imagine like a Neanderthal or some like old human like evolution step being able to eat like I don't know, some kind of meat that they hunted every single like 2 hours. That's not how it was. So our body is actually trained for something to survive longer without actually eating all the time. And therefore you don't need it. It's just some modern civilization bullshit, so to say, that is in your mind. You have to do that, but it's actually not true. Yeah, I'm not saying you should like not do it. I'm just saying for me personally, I think it's completely fine. Yeah. Yeah. What's your S tier time to eat? I would say that's dinner. For me, it's dinner. That is more of a psychological thing though, because for me, dinner is something that is at the end of the day, somewhat, you know? In the morning, I start working, I do my work, and then when I'm done with my work, I can chill and relax and lay back and eat. You know, for me, there's this combination of eating and relaxing. So I like to have my work done before dinner because then I can chill. This is something that is like really weird in my mind, but that's why I really enjoy having certain like time schedules where I know my stuff is done until I'm done, or like until I have dinner, because I know dinner is the time where I can finally like come down, like cool down, stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. Very German take? I guess. Yeah, I know, Bentheus. I know. I actually knew that. When I talked about Neanderthals, that they are actually not our, so to say, direct like ancestors. I know, but I don't want to make a science stream here. You know, it's like most people are not interested in that. So, but I know, like I think in Europe, I think like that like most people have like 5% of Neanderthal genes or something. So it's actually, we are related to them. Yeah. So it's not like completely bullshit what I talked here, but I know you're right, and I know that. Yes. But yeah, it's an interesting debate, and I think you could probably go on for hours with talking about like how food and like general like when you eat affects your body and stuff like that, and how you do it, because I probably can guarantee you that we have like here like 100 people watching and probably 200 different opinions about it. I'm joking, of course, but there is a lot of different nuances to like when you eat, what you should eat and stuff like that. I think I'm just like happy with what I'm doing, and that's probably the most important aspect. And if it's healthy on top of that, I mean, I'm not complaining. But yeah. But yeah, that's how it goes, I guess. Yeah, they are the Denisovans and the ones from the Africans, like from the African side of things, the humans. Very interesting, very interesting. But yeah, either way, I think like we talked about like food and stuff. Asia, okay, they're from Asia. Okay, good to know. But I personally think like for me, that's what I also like to do on stream here. It's always about like doing stuff that suits my type of playstyle. So for example, a lot of people always ask me, do this on stream, do that. And if I don't really enjoy doing it, even if a lot of people would watch it, I don't want to do it. That's the same with like my eating idea. A lot of people in Germany really live this really rich shit, like we eat in the morning, we eat lunch, and we eat dinner. This is very, very rich shit, very crazy, like written in stone in Germany almost. And just because others do that doesn't necessarily that I want to do it as well. That's the same like in Guild Wars 2. When I stream something, I want to have fun and want to enjoy it. Just because someone else does a video or does a stream about a certain topic that is really popular, for example, best example is here the fashion template thing. There was like 2 months ago when the fashion template debacle happened, where like everybody was, or almost everybody was upset about fashion templates and that kind of stuff. I didn't do a single video on that topic because I did not really like to cause drama about a topic that I'm actually not invested in. So I know a lot of people in the community actually wanted to talk about the fashion templates and were really upset about them. But I personally didn't care. So I don't want to make a video about a topic where I either fake being like not happy about it, or where I tell the people in their face, I don't care if you are upset, because both of the things are just not true. I care that you are upset, but I don't know what is the actual issue, why you are upset, or I don't really like want to talk and guess about it. So for me, it's always like I do stuff that I think is for me interesting and fun to talk about, to do. And that goes for every part of my life. I hope that makes sense, yeah. Exactly, Iceland. Exactly. Hey Syrma, I heard you are tier list enjoyer. When will be the zone tier list? I'm talking about Plains of Asphalt, Verdant Brink. I thought about doing this, and I think I will do it at some point, but I will probably wait until I have, so to say, run out of tier list content that is actually somewhat urgent, because we will get an, so to say, rather big shift in the meta with the Tuesday update. Tuesday update will give us some nerfs to, well, a lot of nerfs, and that will shift the meta. And then I will probably do some tier list updates. And I will do some tier lists that are not, so to say, related to balancing and stuff like that as soon as the balancing is pretty much like over and we have like talked about it enough. Then I will go back and maybe we will talk in like a couple of weeks about this. So stay tuned. I will do the tier list about what like maps are really good and how they are fun and stuff like that. But for now, I think we will stick to what we already know will be happening next week. Yeah. Actually, yeah, Terria is really good. Tangled Deaths has to be high as well. Yeah. Most zones are just boring on their own. Meta and bosses make the maps interesting for me. Don't really care for exploration after they did once. Yeah, I'm with you there. I think it's more like the longevity of a map. That's why some of the maps in like Auric Basin, Tangled Depths, and Heart of Thorns in general, I would really like highly rate, like top tier, S tier. And then you have some new maps like, I don't know, what Bava Nissos is pretty new. I would rate really low. Not necessarily because it's an ugly map, that's not really the case. It's more like the longevity of it is horrible. I just don't like playing the map because the events there, the general like flow there is not good. Like Auric Basin, the Octavine, Chuck Garand on Tangled Depths. Those are good maps. I like to go back to them because they have fun events there, fun bosses, and even good rewards. Yeah, that's not the case with some of the newest maps. Visions of Eternity is better, but I think like especially Chandler Wilds had some issues there. Yeah. Absolutely. Welcome, Dallas. Wish you a good stream. I want to ask a question. What do you think about somehow push the idea of reworking old content? Personally want me all of the Soto reworked. That is interesting. Like, I think a lot of people that you would ask here in chat or in channel would probably say the core game should be reworked first before you rework Soto. But I'm with you there. I think we have some issues in Soto that should be addressed as well. I have to be honest, I think they don't have the resources. That's the really sad answer here. I really like if they would push like more reworks out, especially for older content. The sad truth is just, I don't see it happening. You know, I just don't. I think a lot of times ArenaNet is like really focused on creating new content and not really interested too much in creating a lot of like backlash for not making new content, but going back to old content and making that a bit more polished. Yeah, I hope they will do it at some point, both. But in my opinion, I think it seems rather unlikely. Yeah, sorry to say that. Yeah. Dragon's Den is also extremely good, yeah. I don't know, I think the metas from Visions of Eternity are, loot-wise, they are not like really good. I think the maps itself are quite nice to look at, but I think loot is not like, the loot could be better. Oh. This is a Minion Monster Reaper. I used almost everything to survive this. What is this? I mean, now they're gathering? What the? What? Disrespect? I mean... What was that? So weird. What was that? I think the metas in Visions of Eternity are just lucrative because they have some things on them that are necessary to craft the new legendaries. They are not necessarily a good like gold power or something. Yeah, I think they are pretty badly designed in terms of loot or gold that they give. It's just really like the map specific currency that you get. That's pretty much it. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know why Arena it's like things like this in terms of like loot. Who knows? How many super rare drops have you gotten in Guild Wars 2 career? None. I never got an infusion from a meta event and stuff like that. Never ever. So super rare drops, 0. I can tell you that. So really, really low. And can I say, I'm just not a lucky guy, I guess. I know a lot of people that have way less playtime than me and got like multiple of them. That's just, I guess, yeah, some people are lucky, some people are unlucky. That's just how it goes. I'm not complaining, I'm just like mentioning the facts here. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's the end of today's stream. I think we had a really nice discussion and really fun interactions. I hope you enjoyed it. I wish you all a very, very nice weekend. Be sure to check out my YouTube channel. And as usual, special shout out to all the people here supporting me. Really appreciate it. I wish you all a very nice weekend. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you around and take care.